Ira Wildenbisten attends a dull matchmaking meeting while musicians play in the background.
The brown-haired suitor claims this is also his first time at such an event.
He begins a lengthy, self-important monologue about his academic achievements and high grades. Ira smiles politely but finds his constant bragging about himself incredibly boring and tedious.
Despite her lack of interest, the man continues to boast about winning various academic awards.
She questions her mother's judgment for suggesting such an ordinary and uninteresting man for her.
The man suddenly addresses her directly, causing Ira to look up from her tea.
Ira laughs nervously at his bluntness, finding the turn of conversation quite unexpected.
A sudden, loud bang echoes through the hall as guards burst through the main doors.
The suitor is startled by the interruption, while Ira finds the commotion far more interesting. A group of elite Imperial Knights marches sternly into the room, drawing everyone's attention.
Ira wonders if the arrival of the guards signifies the presence of the Emperor himself.
A handsome, blonde man in ornate Imperial regalia strides confidently through the crowd of knights.
Recognition dawns on Ira as the imposing figure passes by her table with cold indifference.
The Emperor stops and addresses Ira by her full name, leaving her stammering in shock.
He leans in and asks why his fiancée is attending a matchmaking meeting with another man. A faint, knowing smile plays on his lips as he gazes down at his stunned subject. The word fiancé echoes in Ira's mind, causing her to reel in absolute disbelief.
Overwhelmed by the situation, Ira experiences a dizzying rush of repressed memories from her past.
A crash sounds as she collapses, the glass shattering as memories of a painful parting resurface.
In a flashback, he coldly declares his intent to disappear from her life forever.
He tells her he is finished with his unrequited, one-sided love for her. A younger Ira weeps openly, promising to never cross his path again as he leaves.
She cries out a final wish for his happiness, heartbroken by their final confrontation.
Ira recalls running away in tears, mourning the birthday gift he never even looked at.
She sobs in the memory, cursing her own foolishness for the way things ended between them.
3 years of isolation pass before Ira travels by carriage to the new emperor's coronation.
Inside the carriage, Ira complains to her friend about the coronation falling on her birthday.
Her sensible friend, Rennie Darien, reflects on her own past feelings for the insensitive emperor. Ira looks down at the sparkling jewelry she wore for the day's formal event. She explains that her lovely bracelet was a birthday gift from her brother, Elfane.
Ira fondly remembers her brother presenting her with a survival kit for her palace adventure.
When Rennie asks if he was joking, Ira confirms her brother is always dead serious.
The carriage arrives at the palace where an official voice welcomes the two noble ladies. Ira steps out onto the palace grounds, her elegant blue and white dress trailing behind her.
She pauses and looks up, mentally preparing herself for the difficult evening ahead.
Ira sighs as she watches the other nobles, wishing she could avoid the party altogether.
She decides to stay for only a short while before making a discreet exit.
Wandering into the gardens, she marvels at how the forest air remains unchanged after 3 years. She closes her eyes and breathes in the familiar scent, finding a moment of peace.
A panoramic view of the mountains reminds her of the childhood family she misses.
As a child, a young Ira cried out in the forest, desperate to find her family. A sudden rustle in the bushes startles the little girl, making her turn in fear.
The young crown prince, Rubello Sahard, steps out of the foliage and asks who she is. Seeing her distress, the blonde-haired boy gently asks if she has lost her right.
Little Ira clutches her dress nervously, still tearful from being alone in the deep woods.
He offers his hand with a kind smile, inviting her to come with him to safety.
They walk through the grass as he remarks that the imperial forest seems to like her.
The boy leans in close, reminding her to keep their meeting in the forest a secret.
He places a finger to his lips, sealing their new bond with a playful secret.
Narrative text explains that those who visit this forbidden place are usually silenced forever.
In the flashback, young Rubellos promises to make a special exception just for her. He offers a gentle, blushing smile while playfully pinching her soft, round cheek.
Transitioning back to the present, Ira clutches her head and tells herself to stop.
She regains her composure, declaring that she has shook everything off and moved on.
Ira sits quietly on a fallen log, closing her eyes to enjoy the peaceful forest.
She reaches a hand up toward the sunlight, a content smile playing on her lips.
Ira looks at her bracelet and realizes the center stone is not actually a ruby.
A sudden presence startles Ira as a large hand reaches toward her surprised, wide-eyed face.
Rubella Sahard appears before her, causing Ira to gasp in shock at his unexpected arrival.
She mentions being named after the gemstone as Rubello stands imposing and tall before her.
Clinging to her dress, Ira nervously offers him her thanks while looking visibly quite flustered. She explains the bracelet was a gift from Elfane, leaving Rubellos looking visibly stunned and confused.
Ira recalls Rubellos asking if she remembers the secret they shared in the forest once. She experiences a moment of shock as she finds herself leaning against his broad chest. Ira realizes the reason for his sudden familiarity is rooted in their shared childhood secret. She thinks to herself that despite his presence, her heart no longer reacts to him.
Ira bluntly declares she feels absolutely nothing for him, leaving the Emperor reeling in disbelief. She explains that her heart has been empty of feelings for him for 3 years.
Ira clarifies that lacking romantic feelings does not mean she would ever betray his secret.
Clenching her hand firmly, Ira promises to keep his secret safe no matter what happens. The two stand in heavy silence within the sun-dappled clearing of the deep imperial woods.
Rubelos attempts to address Ira, but the sudden voice of another man interrupts their conversation.
Her brother, Alphane, emerges from the trees to announce that the coronation is starting soon.
Alphane firmly informs Rubelos that he will personally escort Ira back to the main event.
Ira looks between the two men with a shocked and deeply confused expression on her face.
Alphane requests the Emperor leave first, claiming he needs a private word with the knights. Relieved to escape the tension, Ira bows and asks to be excused from the clearing.
Alphane offers a formal apology and a slight bow to Rubelos as Ira walked away.
Left alone, Rubelos demands to know why the gift he gave is being misattributed now.
Alphane looks deeply troubled and begs Rubelos to stop before things become even more complicated. A heavy thud sounds as the Emperor drops to his knees in the forest grass.
Kneeling in the dirt, Rubelos admits that the current state of things is his fault. He vows to do anything to reclaim her heart, begging for some shred of understanding. Alphane stares down at him in total shock, amazed the Emperor would go this far. Alphane remains silent as he watches the Emperor struggle with his intense and painful regret. The scene shifts to the Grand Hall where the Crown Prince's entrance is loudly announced. Musicians blow golden trumpets while the announcer calls for the gathered guests to show respect.
Rubelos Zahard strides confidently through the crowd, his imperial regalia shining under the palace lights.
Ira blushes while watching him from the crowd, finding him incredibly handsome in his uniform.
Ira pauses as she notices something unusual about the Emperor as he walks past her.
She realizes his knees are covered in dirt and wonders what could have possibly happened. Their eyes briefly meet as he passes by her table, sending a shock through her.
Ira is startled by the encounter, feeling her heart flutter despite her earlier firm resolution.
She quickly tries to convince herself that their eyes didn't actually meet in the crowd. Recalling his past indifference, she laughs at her own foolishness for thinking he looked at her. Her friend Rennie Durian nudges her and asks if she noticed anything about the Emperor. Rennie comments that Ira is finally smiling again, which is something she hasn't seen lately.
Rennie offers a warm and happy smile while looking at her friend with genuine affection.
Ira looks back at her with wide eyes, still feeling surprised by her friend's sudden observation. Sitting alone by the window, Ira looks down at the gift box while the night sky glimmers. The blue-haired woman gazes out with a somber expression, lost in her own private, quiet thoughts.
Opening the chest, Ira discovers a collection of old letters, small glass bottles, and a cart.
A handwritten note from Alphane reminds Ira that her smile is the best in the world. A simple, soft agreement echoes in the air as she looks out at the starry night.
Holding her box of treasures, Ira agrees that the feeling of smiling is actually quite nice.
Ira resolves to discard everything linked to the Emperor, determined to sever all ties to her past. Standing before the open trunk outside, the blue-haired woman prepares to let go of her painful memories.
Peering into the chest, Ira notes that there are many things she has collected over time.
Holding a diary, Ira questions what to do with these books that are filled with her memories.
In the outdoor courtyard, the pages of the past flutter as she prepares to erase her history. Ira falls into a heavy silence while staring down at the open book in her hands.
She decisively snaps the diary shut and tosses it back into the trunk with a sharp sound.
Staring out with determination, Ira declares that these reminders must disappear and be completely erased. The blue-haired woman vows to wipe everything away and be reborn as a completely new person.
Ira announces to her mother that she is attending the matchmaking meeting, receiving a warm, supportive response. Despite her attempts to forget Rubelos, the Emperor asks what his fiancée is doing at the meeting. Recalling the shocking encounter with the Emperor, Ira realizes it makes perfect sense that she fainted. Waking with a start, the blue-haired girl gasps at the impossible idea of being the Emperor's fiancé.
Looking around the unfamiliar, grand bedroom, Ira realizes she is definitely not in her own room. Closing her eyes in relief, the woman tries to convince herself the encounter was only a dream. Ira tells herself that such an outrageous event could never actually happen in her real life.
Walking through the halls, she laughs at the dream while dismissing the Emperor's claim on her.
Ira suddenly pauses, questioning why His Majesty would have actually crashed the matchmaking meeting in reality.
Ira is horrified to overhear women discussing the Emperor's intrusion, realizing her experience was not a dream.
One lady suggests the Emperor seeks revenge for Ira's past persistence while the other urges caution. Shock and disbelief wash over Ira as she processes the suggestion that the Emperor wants revenge. Ira confronts the women, asking why he would seek revenge while the others react with startled surprise.
The braided woman asks how long she's been there, but Ira insists she is fine.
Ira wonders if the man who ignored her for 12 years is now truly seeking cruel revenge.
Fueled by a sudden burst of resolve, the blue-haired woman decides to go see the Emperor immediately. Ira ignores warnings about proper procedures, rushing through the palace doors with a bold and defiant attitude.
Ira's mother suggests letting her go because she knows the secret passages, shocking the braided woman.
Her mother explains that someone taught Ira these secrets, leaving the braided woman wondering who it was.
In a dimly lit chamber, the blonde Emperor Rubelos Zahard lies awake in his large bed. The blonde-haired man stares up at the canopy, lost in thought during the quiet of the night. Sitting up, Rubelos reflects on how the woman has remained unchanged despite 3 long years apart.
The blonde man sits quietly in his room, asking how his Uncle Tail is currently doing. A heavy thud sounds as masked assassins suddenly move through the shadows of the Emperor's bedroom.
A masked man with sharp eyes tells his target to die quietly during the sudden ambush. Rubelos watches as his guards clash with the intruders, blades flashing in the dark of the room.
Walking down a grand hallway, the green-haired man wonders if the Emperor has finally woken up.
Bathed in morning sunlight, Rubelos stands alone by the tall windows of the palace hall. The blonde-haired man turns slightly, his purple eyes looking back with a cool and distant expression. Surveying a floor covered in blood and bodies, Marquis Vice Rodin asks if the Emperor is awake. Her attention is taken by a sudden quick snap sounding as the Emperor commands someone to enter. Marquis Vice Rodin bursts into the room, calling out to His Majesty with a frantic expression. Rodin asks why he crossed Era's meeting, but Rubelos replies that he is now the Emperor.
Rubelos smiles, explaining that his treatment of her will naturally change now that he has the throne.
Vice Rodin watches the blonde man, reflecting on the fate of the poor Duke's daughter. Blonde Rubelos confirms his identity with a stern, focused look in his purple eyes. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick flinch sounding as Rodin reacts in surprise. Rodin asks about the ministers, while Rubelos notes they have been waiting quite a while.
A murmur rises as Rubelos faces the crowd in the conference room holding a document.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick bang sounding as a hand slams the table. Aira shouts at the Emperor, demanding to know what he has done this time. Frustrated and confused, the blue-haired woman demands a proper explanation for the Emperor's recent actions. Aira storms through the murmuring crowd, her sudden entrance causing a significant stir among the guests. Rubelos looks up in utter shock, uttering her name as she approaches him during the meeting. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick stop sounding as Aira freezes in her tracks. Aira panics, realizing she forgot the Emperor is no longer alone after 3 long years. Duke Wildenbisten, Aira's blue-haired father, sighs heavily while rubbing his head in deep frustration.
Rubelos apologizes to the room, claiming he forgot about a prior appointment with the young lady.
The Emperor officially dismisses the gathered ministers, announcing that the meeting will reconvene another day. Murmurs fill the room as Rubelos orders everyone except Lady Aira Wildenbisten to leave immediately. Bathed in sunlight, the Grand Imperial Palace stands tall as Aira offers her nervous thanks. Rubelos apologizes for his sudden intrusion, while a flustered Aira admits she was caught off guard. Aira is surprised to hear the Emperor was already planning on coming to see her. Rubelos asks her to listen, claiming that the topic of their discussion is actually romance. Her attention is taken by a sudden quick bang sounding as Alphane interrupts their conversation. Alphane steps forward in his red uniform, firmly telling the Emperor to stop his current behavior. Surprised by the sudden arrival, Aira looks at her brother while standing beside the Emperor.
Alphane commands Aira to come to him, while Rubelos watches with a cold, protective gaze.
Rubelos refuses to let her go, declaring that he will not allow any further interference today. A chaotic clash erupts as both men grab Aira's arms, pulling her in opposite directions.
Aira realizes the Emperor was only referring to a romance story in the Imperial Publicity magazine.
Alphane demands his sister be released, but Rubelos begins to claim she belongs to him.
Aira stands between the bickering men, visibly annoyed by their childish and competitive behavior.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick slap sounding as Aira forces them to stop.
Aira points at Rubelos, loudly explaining that she was simply doing her professional duty.
She clarifies that His Majesty only wanted advice on a romance novel, confusing both men. Aira notes the importance of the Imperial magazine and the impact of the novel's image.
Feeling honored, Aira smiles brightly while holding the magazine and discussing her new important task.
Rubelos thinks to himself that no one takes romance more seriously than a 19-year-old girl. Aira angrily confronts Alphane, accusing him of getting in the way of her important work. The blue-haired woman looks at her brother and asks if his claims are actually true. Alphane stares at the Emperor with a look of intense disbelief and growing frustration.
Rubelos wonders why the other man is acting so defensive regarding their shared childhood past.
Alphane offers a formal apology for the misunderstanding, hoping to de-escalate the rising tension.
The scene shifts to a quiet room where a trunk and trophies sit on a dresser. Rubelos feels guilty for the misunderstanding, but decides not to correct her happy enthusiasm yet.
Aira declares she is ready, leaving the blonde Emperor looking visibly nervous and breaking sweat.
She leans in close to him, her eyes shining with excitement for their collaborative project.
Aira asks for the story details, while Rubelos decides a small misunderstanding might be acceptable. Narrative text describes a story of a man and woman who were constantly missing each other. The man loved the woman, but feared for her safety due to his many enemies. To protect her, he hid his feelings, leaving a young Aira confused by his behavior. Despite his cold attitude, the woman never gave up and continued to whisper words of love.
Young Aira is shown as a devoted child, always following after the boy she loved. Back in the present, Aira looks somber as she admits she feels sorry for the woman. Rubelos reflects on a man who hid his feelings to protect his love from many enemies.
Aira listens intently to the story, her expression showing a hint of sadness and deep empathy. A narrative text describes how the woman's emotional wounds deepened every time she was rejected.
Distraught, Ira finally leaves the man after years of enduring his cold and indifferent treatment.
Once powerful, the man returns to her side, but the narrative notes their timing is off.
The woman informs him that her feelings have vanished and she no longer loves him.
Determined to win her back, the man vows to devote everything to reclaiming her lost heart.
Back in the present, Ira smiles brightly and eagerly asks what happens next in the story. Rubello smiles gently at her, seemingly pleased by her genuine interest in his narrated tale.
Ira's excitement quickly turns into utter confusion when she realizes that was the entire story.
Rubellus asks for her opinion, but Ira questions how to judge a story that ends abruptly.
Ira concentrates hard, reminding herself this novel is for a prestigious imperial publication and needs perfection.
She adopts a professional tone, stating the story isn't quite right for a business-focused imperial magazine.
The Emperor looks surprised and slightly taken aback by her blunt and honest professional assessment.
Gesturing emphatically, Ira explains that the story lacks the essential element of a heart-fluttering romantic feeling.
Ira laughs off the short prologue, noting that the curtain on the play has only just risen.
Rubellus agrees, stating that readers cannot truly judge the work until it is completely finished.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick sparkle sounding as Rubellos gazes at her intently.
Ira finds it strange that romance was discussed at a state council, but Rubellos confirms it.
Amidst a background of soft flowers, a narration declares that the play has only just begun.
Rubellos maintains a serious and focused expression as he prepares to address a more personal matter. Over a floral backdrop, the Emperor tells himself that he will control what happens next. Ira continues to smile, surrounded by blooming flowers that reflect her currently upbeat and cheerful mood. Rubellos begins a formal apology, expressing his sincere regret for his recent actions toward Lady Wildenbisten.
Looking down at the documents, Ira listens as the Emperor admits he should have apologized much sooner. He apologizes for crashing her meeting and calling her his fiancée, while Ira remembers her purpose.
Rubellus admits his behavior was careless and expresses deep regret for damaging her social honor.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick thud sounding as Ira's heart begins to race.
Ira dismisses the meeting as unimportant while internally scolding herself for letting her heart race.
Rubellus looks hopeful, asking if the matchmaking meeting was also meaningless to her in reality.
Ira cheerfully confirms it was meaningless, adding that she can simply arrange another matchmaking meeting later.
Rubellus is visibly devastated as Ira explains she has plenty of other noble options in the capital. Rubellus is stunned into silence as Ira suggests marrying a vassal or perhaps even studying abroad. Ira muses about countries with handsome men, leaving Rubellos reeling from the idea of her leaving. A dark, jealous aura surrounds Rubellos as he repeats her words about studying abroad and handsome men. Ira enthusiastically agrees with her own idea, completely unaware of the Emperor's growing distress and jealousy. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick clench, sounding as Rubellos grits his teeth. Ira asks if he is all right, wondering why he finds her plans for the future pointless. Rubellos finally snaps, desperately asking why she would seek others when she could just marry him. In a sudden outburst, Rubellos demands she marry him instead of seeking out other pointless matches. Rubellos immediately covers his mouth in shock at his own words while Ira stands frozen in surprise. Ira stands in stunned silence, wondering if she actually just heard the Emperor propose to her. Looking troubled, Ira questions why he would suddenly bring up the topic of marriage and fiancés.
Rubellus looks pained and deeply embarrassed by his impulsive confession, unable to meet her gaze directly.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick gasp sounding as Rubellus realizes the impact of his words. Tears well up in Ira's eyes as she processes the unexpected and heavy weight of his proposal. Ira remains silent, her mind racing with conflicting emotions as she stares down at her dress. Rubellos looks dejected when Ira firmly states that she does not want to marry him. A memory shows young Ira offering cake to a cold, silent Rubellos who completely ignores her. Young Ira stands alone as Rubellos walks away, recalling how he always treated her as invisible.
Two women gossip about a persistent girl at the ball who continues to seek attention despite being repeatedly ignored.
Blue-haired Ira stands holding a cake as onlookers mock her for not knowing her place despite her family's wealth. A narrative text box explains that because of her actions, everyone constantly whispered and pointed fingers behind her back. Recalling the humiliation she endured, a crying Ira firmly states that she refuses the Emperor's current proposal. As Ira turns to leave the room, a desperate Rubellos reaches out and pleads for her to wait. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick scream sounding as Ira flees the room and slams the door shut. The blonde Emperor stands in the center of the quiet room, appearing completely devastated and shell-shocked by her rejection. Walking down the palace hallway, Ira tells herself that she is fine and will handle the situation. With tears still in her eyes, Ira vows that she will never allow herself to be shaken or manipulated again. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick stop sounding as Ira pauses at the entrance to another grand room. Amidst a backdrop of bright sunflowers, a voice welcomes her and mentions that there are old acquaintances she should see. An elegant blonde woman is formally introduced as Apina Zahard, the current Empress Dowager and the former Empress. A simple text box clarifies that the smiling blonde woman is actually the mother of His Majesty Emperor Rubellos. Ira forces a bright smile and a laugh while formally greeting the Empress Dowager after their long time apart. Ira is shocked to see a red-haired woman standing nearby, wondering if she is the old acquaintance the Empress mentioned. The red-haired woman with golden eyes is formally identified as Randall Beatrice, appearing friendly and elegant.
Ira excitedly reunites with Randall, asking when she arrived in the capital, to which the red-haired woman replies she arrived today.
The Empress Dowager interjects, revealing that she was the one who personally invited the red-haired lady to the capital.
Above a view of a grand ballroom and drinks, the Empress explains she needs young ladies to help plan an upcoming party.
With a joyful expression, the Empress Dowager declares that having everyone gathered in one place is where true social interaction flourishes.
Ira and Randall share a look of surprise and slight confusion at the Empress's sudden and enthusiastic plan.
The Empress Dowager leans forward and holds their hands, expressing her sincere hope that both young women will assist her.
Ira and Randall both offer a polite and energetic response, promising the Empress Dowager that they will do their absolute best.
A scenic view of the Grand Imperial Palace grounds marks the beginning of the first day for the party planning committee. Ira looks visibly irritated and pouts, seemingly unhappy about the current circumstances of her new assignment.
Ira spots Rubelos in the hallway and considers taking a long path to avoid him before noticing something unexpected.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick stop sounding as Ira freezes behind a pillar to watch the Emperor.
Ira observes Rubelos talking to Randall from a distance, wondering what important matter the two could be discussing.
A split-panel view shows Randall laughing and Rubelos smiling gently during their conversation, appearing quite comfortable with one another.
Ira looks on with a somber expression, her eyes filled with a mix of sadness and deep contemplation.
Choosing to remain unseen, the blue-haired woman turns away and quietly retreats from the hallway.
At a tea party, a noblewoman asks if it is true the Empress Dowager invited a lady from House Beatrice.
Ira sits with a pink-haired lady who suggests that the rumors about the girl running away in the night were exaggerated.
The pink-haired noblewoman whispers to Ira that something about the situation feels strange, prompting Ira to ask for clarification.
A memory depicts the Empress meeting Randall, as the noblewoman points out the Empress doesn't even know her personally.
The pink-haired lady worries the Empress intends to introduce Randall to the Emperor, but Ira coldly claims she doesn't care.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick click sounding as Cecil Silka and Viscountess Fontil approach, insulting the stalker present.
The blonde Cecil and purple-haired Fontil mock Ira for returning to society after her disgrace, claiming her presence is unthinkable. Ira maintains her composure, greeting the two women politely and noting they will have to tolerate her presence from now on.
When asked what brings her to the palace, Ira calmly replies that she is there for the same reason as them.
Chibi versions of Cecil and Fontil mock Ira for being slow to understand that things will be awkward with the Emperor.
With an irritated but polite smile, Ira mentions she had a very interesting talk with His Majesty just a few days ago. Ira gestures broadly, asking the women if they really think the Emperor would act the way they suggest he does. Cecil loudly retorts that everyone knows the Emperor despised Ira and accuses her of telling a desperate, obvious lie. Leaning in close, Ira dares the blonde woman to ask the Emperor himself, or admits she simply lacks the confidence.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick shudder sounding as a trembling Cecil reacts with outrage to Ira's provocation. Ira explains that her persistence in telling the Emperor she loved him despite repeated rejections was a conscious choice.
Looking determined, Ira declares that she simply chose to be brave and refused to give up on her feelings. Ira tells the stunned blonde woman that those who cannot even speak to their crush shouldn't belittle the feelings of others.
Elsewhere in the palace, a joyful Randall Beatrice runs down the hallway, excited by the prospect of making many new friends.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick click sounding as a hand turns the ornate door handle. Randall enters with a cheerful greeting, but a mocking voice insults the shabbiness of her dress choice.
Cecil holds up her fan, dismissively claiming that Randall's choice of attire is entirely tasteless and embarrassing. Ira defends her friend, firmly stating that a woman's worth should never be judged by her appearance.
The blonde woman questions Randall's invitation, while Ira suspects there is something far more scandalous at play.
A bold statement questions whether having a sense of fashion justifies insulting and belittling another person's dignity.
Randall confidently reveals that Ira's new dress is being crafted by the most prestigious imperial designer available. The onlookers are left speechless as Randall promises that Ira will be prepared by the Empire's best experts.
Cecil and Fontil laugh scornfully, doubting that a country-bred girl could ever understand the capital's elite trends.
Ira expresses her irritation while Randall prepares to drop a truth that her rival could not know.
Randall shocks Ira by revealing the Emperor is personally ensuring she has the most exquisite dress imaginable.
Atira stands frozen in the Grand Hall, trying to process the confusing news about the Emperor's personal involvement.
The blue-haired woman is visibly rattled by the mention of being his partner for the upcoming event.
A flashback shows Rubelos meticulously inquiring about Randall's favorite colors and gemstones to help choose a gift.
Randall admits she has no specific design preference, leaving the Emperor to handle the finer creative details alone.
Finishing the discussion, Randall stretches casually and notes that she has answered all of his specific personal questions.
Randall joyfully explains that the value of a gift depends entirely on the person who is giving it.
Rebello stands silently with a dark, intense gaze as Ira considers the political implications of his sudden actions. Narration explains that Era's powerful family remains the only noble house capable of challenging the imperial crown's authority. Memories of their youth show young Rubellos playing with Tail Zahart, the late emperor's ambitious younger brother. Tail Zahart is revealed to have been a persistent threat who constantly sought to seize the succession rights. Despite Tail's efforts, the narration clarifies that Rubelos' exceptional talents ensured the throne was never truly endangered. After the late emperor's departure, Era's father shifted his allegiance to remain neutral in the ensuing political struggle. The Duke watches Tail depart, marking the end of Tail's time as a member of the royal family. Tail Zahard was eventually stripped of his title and banished from the palace to live as Tail Kilton. The pink-haired noblewoman notes that the emperor's power would become absolute if he absorbs House Wildenbiston's influence. Ira realizes she had already suspected the emperor's true motives but simply chose to ignore the harsh reality. The noblewoman scolds Ira for her past blindness, questioning her intelligence for ever having clung to the man.
Ira is sternly warned not to fall for his tricks again, to which she offers a firm agreement.
Walking away with newfound resolve, Ira claims to be reborn as Randall watches on with genuine admiration.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick click sounding as Ira prepares to enter the next room.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick clang sounding as Ira bursts into the hall with determination.
Rubellos greets her while holding an enormous, vibrant bouquet of flowers that catches her completely off guard.
The emperor admits he came to ask a question, leaving the gathered women staring in total disbelief.
Rebellos offers a charming smile as he formally asks Era to be his partner for the grand party.
Ira reminds him of her previous rejection, but he admits he still fully intended to pursue her regardless.
Rubellos presents the flowers, declaring his decision to wait for her despite the clear rejection she gave him.
Looking down the long, empty hallway, Ira feels that the current situation is deeply and fundamentally wrong. Ira snaps at the emperor, telling him to leave her alone and never approach her in this manner. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick clomp sounding as Ira storms away, leaving Rubelos alone. Walking through the gardens, Ira celebrates her own calm composure and refusal to cry during the tense encounter. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick slip sounding as Era's foot loses its grip on the path. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick thud sounding as Ira falls face first onto the grassy ground. Rubbing her head, Era tells herself that preparations are going well despite her clumsy and undignified little tumble.
Overhearing a conversation, Ira learns that some people associate the Emperor's red eyes with dangerous and evil powers.
Ira hides in the bushes, horrified to hear that 60 assassins plan to infiltrate the upcoming palace celebration. The conspirators plot to strike during the grand party, confident that even a human with powers can die. A man mocks his companion's foolishness, while Ira remains hidden, listening intently to their dangerous secret conversation.
The men discuss the mysterious disappearance of prisoners, noting that no corpses were ever recovered from the dungeon.
The man with gray-streaked hair wonders about their fate, concluding that their whereabouts remain a total mystery.
The man with gray-streaked hair explains that they must eliminate the target regardless of the location.
Hiding in the bushes, Ira realizes Rubelos is in grave danger and panics at the discovery.
Desperate to warn him, Ira asks a palace guard for a moment to see His Majesty.
The guard explains that the Emperor ordered no one be allowed through but offers to take a message. When Ira asks when she can meet him, the guard simply states he is not allowed to say. Ira wonders how she can warn the Emperor when she cannot trust anyone around her right now. Era recalls Tail Kilton's threats and realizes there must be more intruders who have not been caught. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick squeeze sounding as Era decides she must tell him directly.
Looking determined, the blue-haired woman realizes she needs to find someone she can actually trust for help.
Ira stands alone in her room, focused on her task while wearing a purple gemstone necklace.
Arriving at the entrance to the Empress Dowager's palace, Ira attempts to gain a formal audience. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick flap sounding as Era urgently asks to see the royals. A servant explains the Empress Dowager has a cold and is isolated with the Grand Emperor.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick thrum sounding as Ira learns the isolation lasts until the party. Nearby, several noblewomen discuss choosing lilacs and freesias for the upcoming Grand Imperial celebration. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick hum sounding as Ira identifies Tail Kilton as the mastermind. Ira is shocked that Tail remains so obsessed with the throne after all this time.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick gulp sounding as Ira realizes Tail plans to murder his nephew.
Cecil and Fonto mock Era, claiming everyone in the capital knows the Emperor despises her. The two women mockingly ask if Ira is worried about being unable to secure a party dress.
Cecil laughs, claiming it is too late to find a dress salon with any openings for her.
Cecil smugly offers Era a leftover dress if she bows her head and offers a sincere apology.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick knock sounding as a servant offers Ira a dress choice. Ira looks completely bewildered by the sudden offer from the servant at her door.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick shimmer sounding as the servant reveals a room full of gifts. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick gasp sounding as Chibi Ira stares at the gift mountain.
Cecil and Fontil are horrified as the servant delivers a letter and gifts from the Emperor.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick quiver sounding as Cecil screams in disbelief at the gifts.
The servant confirms the gifts are from the Emperor, leaving the rival noblewomen absolutely fuming.
Cecil and Fontil are left speechless, realizing the implications of Ira being the Emperor's chosen partner. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick slide sounding as the servant presents the Emperor's letter.
Ira stands in stunned silence as she prepares to read the personal message from Rebellos. Holding the envelope, Ira stands alone in the room, reflecting on the weight of the situation.
Ira carefully opens the letter, her expression unreadable as she begins to read the contents.
In the letter, Rebellos admits that picking up a pen made him want to see her immediately.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick wail sounding as Ira desperately hopes he will visit. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick snap sounding as Rebellos refuses to go to her first. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick huff sounding as Rebellos reveals his long-held secret feelings.
The letter concludes with Rebellos promising to wait for Ira in the central garden before the ceremony.
Ira is struck by a realization after reading the Emperor's specific plan to meet her.
Narration notes the morning of the opening ceremony is the chosen time for their secret meeting. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick cheer sounding as Chibi Ira celebrates this fortunate opportunity. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick shimmer sounding as Ira looks forward to the encounter. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick pop sounding as Ira resolves to do her duty.
Holding the letter close, Ira reflects on her responsibility as a citizen of the Zahard Empire.
Narration confirms that time has finally passed and the day of the opening ceremony has arrived. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick click sounding as Ira appears in her exquisite gown.
Rebellos stands tall in his formal imperial uniform, appearing regal and prepared for the grand event.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick thump sounding as the two meet in the garden.
Ira believes everything will work out as long as she can warn His Majesty about the intruders.
Staring in disbelief, the blue-haired woman reflects on how she never imagined this current situation. The palace garden is filled with vibrant flowers under the warm light of the afternoon sun.
Rebello stands regally in his formal uniform, waiting patiently amidst the beautifully manicured garden grounds.
Wearing an elegant, ruffled white gown, the blue-haired woman appears radiant and composed for the party.
Rubellos is momentarily stunned by her beauty, a subtle blush appearing on his handsome, youthful face.
The two stand facing each other, the atmosphere between them thick with unspoken words and tension.
The blue-haired woman looks at the Emperor with an intense, lingering gaze, her thoughts clearly elsewhere.
Realizing she must focus, Era tells herself it is no time to be standing around idly.
In chibi form, Ira asks if they are truly alone, to which the Emperor firmly confirms they are.
Ira explains that she came because she has something extremely important she must tell His Majesty directly.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick click sounding as her heel slips on the floor.
Panicking as she loses her balance, the blue-haired woman cries out that she's going to fall.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick swish sounding as Rubellos reaches out to catch her. Safely caught in his arms, the blue-haired woman breathlessly offers her sincere thanks to the Emperor.
Looking up at him while still being held, she offers a soft, hesitant confirmation to his gaze.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick rustle sounding as she is lifted off her feet. The Emperor effortlessly carries the blue-haired woman bridal style, leaving her stunned by his sudden, bold action.
Rebellos promises to walk slowly so she can speak, but Ira protests that he is too close. Rebellos strides through the palace halls, holding Era close as he moves with purpose and grace.
Leaning in, the blue-haired woman begins to whisper her urgent and secret warning into the Emperor's ear.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick tap sounding as Rebellos stops dead in his tracks.
Watching his reaction, the blue-haired woman asks the Emperor if he was surprised by her news.
Rubellos notes the shock of family betrayal, commenting on how frightening it must have been for her.
The Emperor asks if she has 9 lives for listening nearby, while Chibi Ira looks on blankly. Rubellos scolds her for not running away, while Ira insists that he is the one in danger. Rubellos shouts that the assassins do not matter because his only concern in this moment is her.
Turning his head away with a blush, the Emperor clarifies that was all he meant to say. Noticing his reaction, the blue-haired woman asks the Emperor if he is actually feeling embarrassed right now.
Ira points out that his ears are bright red, confirming his visible and unexpected state of embarrassment.
Gazing out the window, the blue-haired woman offers a soft, questioning response to the Emperor's sudden comment. Rebellos claims to know everything that happens in the palace, while Ira admits she finally understands.
They share a long, silent moment of eye contact as he continues to carry her through the hall. A close-up reveals the blue-haired woman's wide, sparkling eye as she processes the Emperor's surprising revelation.
Ira asks if he already knew about the plot, and the Emperor simply confirms that he did.
Shocked, Ira admits she was only worried because she mistakenly thought he was unaware of the danger. Rubellos orders her to run away if danger arises, and Ira offers a quiet, submissive agreement.
The Emperor continues walking through the grand hallway, keeping the blue-haired woman securely tucked in his arms.
Noticing a change in their direction, the blue-haired woman lets out a small sound of confused realization.
When Era asks where they are going, the Emperor reveals their destination is the Grand Party Hall.
They arrive at the entrance of the crowded hall where the other guests are already gathered together. Era's eyes go wide with sudden panic as she realizes they are about to make an entrance.
Ira begs to be put down, but Rebellos insists she be careful because she twisted her ankle.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick wail sounding as Ira desperately pleads for him to listen.
The Emperor maintains a calm and determined expression as he prepares to face the crowd of nobles.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick huff sounding as Rebellos refuses to put her down. The noblemen in the hall are left completely speechless by the sight of the Emperor carrying Ira. Era's father and brother watch in stunned silence as the Emperor approaches with his unexpected burden.
Overwhelmed by the public attention, the blue-haired woman covers her face in deep and visible embarrassment.
Rebellos announces their arrival as they enter the room while a censored sound of shock fills the air. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick rustle sounding as Era's dress settles around her feet.
Rebellos tells Era it is a great honor to have her as his partner, as she realizes why he carried her. Ira looks flustered as Rebellos explains that he could not possibly turn her down before the entire crowd. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick swish sounding as the Emperor reaches for her hand.
Although slightly annoyed, Ira admits that walking into the hall together was a dream she long held.
Glittering golden musical notes drift through the air, signaling the grand beginning of the Imperial Palace ceremony.
A formal announcement declares that the Emperor and his partner, Lady Ira Wildenbisten, are now entering the hall.
The couple walks into the ballroom, gently holding hands as the crowd of noble guests watches their entrance. Looking on in shock, some noblewomen cough and mutter as they witness the Emperor's favor toward Era. Guiding her toward the seating area, Rebellos softly tells Era to just stay seated right beside him. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick moi sounding as Rebellos kisses her hand before stepping away.
Red roses decorate the foreground as the blue-haired woman settles into her place for the ceremony.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick sigh sounding as Ira sits dazed by the public affection.
Standing at the podium, a voice announces the Emperor will now deliver the opening declaration to the audience. From her seat behind him, Ira watches the Emperor's back as he takes command of the event.
Rebellos stands tall and regal in his formal uniform, silhouetted against the bright light of the ballroom. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick gulp sounding as Ira watches the Emperor with nervous intensity. Clasping her gloved hands tightly, the blue-haired woman maintains an elegant and composed posture during the ceremony. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick clap sounding as the Emperor officially declares the party open. Rebellos appears calm and determined as the festivities begin, signaling the start of the high society imperial celebration. An ornate throne stands empty and highlighted by the warm golden glow filling the massive palace hall nearby. The Emperor maintains a serious and focused expression as he navigates the high-pressure atmosphere of the ceremony.
The scene shifts to a tranquil white gazebo surrounded by flowers under the bright afternoon sun in the garden.
Seeking solitude, Ira wonders how anyone managed to find her in this quiet and secluded palace garden spot.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick ha sounding as she finds a man at the railing. Ira questions the stranger's identity as he mutters about missing someone while leaning over the garden balcony.
The brown-haired man whispers the names Randall and Beatrice, clearly lost in his own deeply personal thoughts. Recognizing the name Randall, Ira reacts with visible shock and wonders about the stranger's connection to her friend.
Narration identifies the man as Daniel Amida, a southern knight who harbors a secret crush on Randall.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick eek sounding as Daniel is startled by Ira's unexpected appearance.
When Daniel asks for her identity, the blue-haired woman introduces herself as Ira from House Wildenbisten. Offering a kind smile, Era notes that the area is rarely visited and offers to show him the way. While Ira hopes to seem kind, the chibi knight considers her a suspicious person and watches her warily. Daniel looks visibly uncomfortable and sweat-dropped as he asks what Era is doing in such a remote location. Looking away with a gentle smile, the blue-haired woman reflects on her reasons for seeking out the garden. Narration notes that the mere thought of being bullied by everyone again gives Ira a massive, painful headache.
Ira admits she came to hide because she didn't want her friends to get caught up in the bullying.
Daniel looks surprised and sympathetic, realizing the elegant noblewoman standing before him is being targeted by her peers. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick huff sounding as Ira worries about facing her friends now.
Ira considers that having another man by her side might help keep her persistent bullies at a distance.
Standing in the garden, Ira kindly offers to help the knight find the people he was looking for.
Daniel appears slightly dazed and uncertain as he considers the unexpected offer from the friendly and helpful noblewoman.
Ira beams with a radiant and flower-filled smile, instantly making the garden atmosphere feel much more pleasant.
Narration reveals that the blue-haired woman is pleasantly surprised to discover that Randall has such a kind-hearted friend. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick tap sounding as the pair begins walking through the garden together.
Thinking she knows the layout, Ira asks if the party hall is in the direction they are walking.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick swish sounding as Daniel points in the entirely opposite direction.
The two share a laugh, finding humor in their mutual confusion as they navigate the massive palace grounds together. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick tsk sounding as Daniel reacts to the blue-haired woman's cheerful laugh.
Narration wonders about Randall's current location as the pair continues their search through the festive and crowded palace. Ira suggests finding Randall in a crowded place since it is her first palace party and she's likely excited. Narration notes the time as a voice wonders where Ira has disappeared to during the party. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick tap sounding as Randall and Lenny decide to search quieter spots. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick murmur sounding as the crowd mingle in the palace hall. Searching for his partner, Rubelos looks around the room and silently wonders where Ira could be. The blue-haired woman stands among the guests, offering a pleasant and cheerful smile to those nearby.
Rubelos watches her from afar, his expression softening into a warm and affectionate smile.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick tap sounding as the Emperor stops while watching the pair. Daniel suggests heading outside since Ira isn't there, and she agrees to go with him.
The brown-haired knight looks slightly flustered as he prepares to escort the noblewoman out.
Ira beams with joy, her face illuminated by a radiant smile as they walk together. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick tap sounding as Rubelos remains silent while watching them leave.
A bubble announces a departure as the scene shifts away from the immediate palace hallway.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick rustle sounding as Rubelos turns with a stern expression.
The intricate embroidery of a dress hem is shown as someone moves across the palace floor.
Randall complains about being hungry, prompting Lenny to suggest finding food in the palace garden. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick chatter sounding as guests gather in the sunny palace garden.
A speech bubble recounts a story about Randall's swollen cheek after a bee sting incident.
Era and Daniel walk through the garden together as she laughs at his amusing story.
A pair of noblewomen watch the couple from a distance, their faces filled with visible annoyance.
One woman mocks Era for flirting with another man after being rejected by the Emperor.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick sigh sounding as they speculate about Era's future.
Daniel reflects on the cruelty of noble society and the way they bully others for amusement.
A purple-haired noblewoman approaches, claiming she had no idea the blue-haired lady was present. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick tap sounding as she greets them with a cold smile. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick wobble sounding as she claims her hand slipped.
Wine stains the knight's uniform after the woman intentionally spills her drink on him.
Maintaining a calm and protective demeanor, Daniel quietly advises Era to be careful of the mess.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick huff sounding as the woman offers a forced apology. Daniel notes how much palace etiquette has changed as he stares at the woman with cold eyes.
A thought bubble questions if treating a duke.
The purple-haired woman looks flustered and unexpected Rabal.
Offering a shallow apology, the two noblewomen quickly excuse themselves and leave the garden.
Ira asks Daniel why he protected her, but he insists that it is a knight's duty.
Looking concerned, Ira apologizes for the situation while Daniel continues to inspect his stained uniform.
A close-up highlights the blue-haired woman's face as she watches the knight with a saddened expression.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick tap sounding as Ira tries to clean the stain.
Daniel insists he can handle it himself, his expression turning slightly sheepish under her focused attention.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick tap sounding as their hands touch over the stained fabric.
Rubelos stands alone on a stone staircase, his gaze fixed on something in the distance.
A soft and blurred light transition signals a shift in the mood or time of the scene.
A close-up highlights the Emperor's intense eye as he watches the pair with cold focus. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick tap sounding as Randall and Lenny approach the Emperor. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick step sounding as Lenny notes that Daniel has met Ira.
Daniel is startled to see the Emperor, while Ira reacts with visible surprise at his sudden arrival. Daniel explains that he got lost and Ira helped him, while Rubelos listens in silence nearby.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick glance sounding as Rubelos suggests Daniel go to a waiting room.
Ira attempts to speak up as the Emperor turns his attention toward her once again.
Rubelos stares intensely at the blue-haired woman, his silent gaze creating a tense and heavy atmosphere.
Lenny offers to guide Daniel to the waiting room, while Randall thanks her for the help.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick tug sounding as Lenny and Randall drag the knight away.
Standing in the sun-drenched garden, Ira asks the Emperor if he needed to speak with her.
Rubelos stands with his back to her, his regal posture silhouetted against the bright afternoon light.
The two stand facing each other, a heavy and uncertain atmosphere hanging between them in the quiet garden.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick gasp sounding as Ira reacts to his unexpected question. Maintaining a serious and piercing gaze, Rubelos asks her to clarify her relationship with the knight, Daniel Amita.
Ira is visibly flustered and reflects on the amusing and harmless conversation she shared with Daniel earlier.
A flashback shows the pair walking together as Daniel shares a story about Randall's encounter with a bee.
Smiling warmly, the blue-haired woman asks if that incident was when he first developed feelings for Randall. Daniel urgently pleads with Ira to keep his secret, fearing that rumors could cause trouble for his friend.
Looking genuinely relieved and happy, the knight expresses his gratitude that Randall has such a kind-hearted friend. Ira reflects on Daniel's sincerity, noting that his feelings for her red-haired friend are clearly deep and genuine. The scene returns to the present as Rubellus watches her with a cold, intense, and unreadable expression.
Ira notices his gaze and wonders if he has ever looked at her with such a smile recently.
Rubellus cuts her off with a sharp and dismissive tone, stating that she doesn't need to explain anything.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick breath sounding as Ira looks up at the Emperor in surprise.
Looking away with a conflicted and slightly pained expression, Rubellus prepares to end their tense conversation.
The pair stands in silence, the distance between them feeling vast despite their physical proximity in the garden.
Rubellus claims that he has no right to hold her back or interfere with whatever makes her happy.
Turning on his heel to leave, the Emperor coldly declares that he will no longer be a burden.
In a final, quiet thought, he expresses a sincere wish for her future happiness despite his cold departure. Rubellus walks away with a firm and determined stride, leaving the blue-haired woman alone on the palace grounds.
Ira stands frozen and confused as she watches the Emperor's back as he disappears from the garden. The noblewoman realizes that he has completely misunderstood the situation but finds herself unable to speak up.
Looking out over the palace garden, Ira feels overwhelmed and unsure of how to correct his false impression.
Her hair blows in the gentle breeze as she reflects on the sudden and cold distance between them.
The scene shifts to the party hall, where Ira laments her recent overindulgence and wonders when the celebration will end.
While standing with Lenny and Randall, Ira is startled to see the Emperor approaching from across the room.
Rubellus looks stunningly regal in his dark uniform, but he maintains a stern and unapproachable demeanor.
Without acknowledging her presence, the Emperor abruptly turns and walks away, clearly avoiding any direct interaction with Ira.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick gasp sounding as Ira is left bewildered by his cold behavior.
Seeking a distraction from the awkward social scene, Ira asks her friends when their next tea party is.
While Randall and Lenny discuss the event, Ira remains lost in thought, her mind fixed on the Emperor.
Rubellus continues to walk away, his intentional avoidance making Ira feel more isolated and confused than ever. Ira reflects on her earlier declaration of lost interest, yet she finds herself deeply bothered by his coldness.
Memories of his recent kindness and protective gestures flood her mind, making her question her own true feelings. Ira considers that if he was going to abandon her so easily, his previous actions are even more confusing.
The blue-haired woman wonders why he acted in ways that led her to believe he actually cared.
Randall reaches out and grabs Ira's arm, pulling her back to the reality of their current conversation.
Lenny and Randall watch her with concern, noticing that their friend is unusually distracted and troubled.
The scene shifts to a more intimate setting as the three friends gather around a table for tea.
Ira concludes that her feelings must have meant very little to the Emperor if he could leave so easily.
In a moment of quiet self-reproach, the noblewoman considers herself a fool for hoping for something more.
A speech bubble introduces the latest gossip about Count Ralph Linderman's activities in the Northern Territories. During their tea, Lenny mentions that the Count has been seen pursuing Lady Silka with great persistence recently.
Randall looks surprised by the news, while Lenny notes that Silka is notorious for her popularity among men.
Ira leans on her hand and sighs, noting that even Lady Silka seems to be finding romance now.
A heavy and somewhat awkward silence falls over the three friends as they reflect on their own lives.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick sigh sounding as the trio collectively feels the weight of their situation.
Lenny, known for her impossibly high standards, warns Randall not to settle for just any man she meets. Randall looks miserable and self-deprecating, lamenting that her shut-in lifestyle makes it unlikely she'll ever find someone. The blue-haired woman reflects on her stalker reputation, certain no one would date her. Lamenting their shared single status over tea, Ira and her friends sigh in unison.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick clatter sounding as the scene shifts.
Looking at her companions, Ira flatly declares that she is currently starving for food. A servant recommends the apple tart, prompting the blue-haired woman to offer her thanks.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick clatter sounding as they prepare to eat.
Happily eating her treat, Ira declares that this is the best tart of her life. The bright afternoon sun shines brilliantly across the clear blue sky of the palace.
Squinting against the glare, Ira notes the sunlight is almost too strong to bear.
A hand offers a parasol as a voice suggests using it before heading back inside.
Ira thanks the woman in the large hat, who politely dismisses the gesture. Holding the parasol, Ira wonders about the identity of the kind woman she should thank.
Sunlight dapples the blue-haired woman's dress as she grips the handle of the gift.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick click sounding as the parasol opens fully. Walking through the garden, Ira reflects on how nice the shade of the parasol feels.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick shout sounding as a woman screams.
Stopping in her tracks, Ira looks toward the nearby woods with a confused expression.
A man orders Lady Silka to come quietly as she struggles to break free. Ira recognizes the victim as Lady Silka, who is desperately calling for someone to help.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick silence sounding as the garden becomes still.
Watching the unfolding violence, Ira panics internally while wondering what she should possibly do. The man roughly grabs Lady Silka's shoulder, causing her to scream as she resists him. The man yells about fetching a document for their sake while glaring at the woman.
Lady Silka asks if he takes her for an idiot, explaining the contract's true purpose. The man tells her not to lump them together, claiming she was the pursuer.
Wearing a sinister grin, the brown-haired man notes he tried to settle things peacefully.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick yank sounding as he grabs her hair. He threatens to ruin Lady Silka's reputation with rumors of carousing that he can fabricate.
Looming over her, the man menacingly asks if they should start their carousing right now.
Close to her ear, he hears Lady Silka's desperate, tearful plea for him to stop. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick whoosh sounding as an intervention occurs. Lady Silka weeps as she is pulled away from her attacker by a sudden force.
Stumbling backward, the brown-haired man asks what is happening with a look of pure confusion.
Ira shields Lady Silka as the man demands to know who has dared to interfere. Recognizing the noblewoman, the man notes it was her all along with a mocking tone. Identifying Ira as the Duke's daughter, he is asked how he knows her identity.
Claiming friendship with her father, the man tells the blue-haired woman to get lost.
Era stands firm, declaring that using violence against those who are weaker is completely unacceptable. Smirking, the man challenges her to see just how unacceptable the situation truly is.
Rebellos strikes the harasser down as Lady Silka and Ira watch the sudden violence.
Glaring with intense purple eyes, the Emperor notes this occurs in the middle of the palace.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick thud sounding as the man cowers.
A dark thought bubble declares that the wicked man will never die a peaceful death.
Maintaining a cold and unforgiving expression, Rubelos pins the man down with his boot.
The Emperor orders his men to take the perpetrator away as he looms over him.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick clatter sounding as Ira drops her parasol.
Turning his gaze toward the women, Rubelos prepares to address the shaken blue-haired noblewoman.
Rebellos calls out Ira's name, receiving a soft and uncertain response as they lock eyes.
Looking distraught, the Emperor reminds her to run without hesitation whenever things become dangerous.
Looking deeply pained, Rubelos asks why on earth she would risk herself like that.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick sniffle sounding as Ira looks completely shaken.
Rubelos denies a previous claim and expresses deep worry about her being harmed.
The blonde Emperor lies on the ground with the blue-haired woman in his arms.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick gasp sounding as Ira leans against him. A close-up reveals the Emperor's intense purple eye as he looks at her. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick squeeze sounding as Rebellos pulls her closer.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick thud sounding as she questions his actions.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick shudder sounding as Lady Silka cowers.
Ira suggests taking the victim to medical care while Rebellos commands his knights to move her.
The Emperor demands better security vigilance while the knight apologizes for the lapse.
The subordinate acknowledges the order as the Emperor watches the women depart.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick turn sounding as Rebellos looks away.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick step sounding as the group leaves him.
In the palace infirmary, the blue-haired noblewoman watches over Lady Silka's recovery. Silka questions why she was saved despite having no personal obligation.
Ira posits that helping someone in need requires no specific justification.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick snap sounding as Silka sits up. Silka admits she previously harbored resentment due to being targeted by the noblewoman.
A narrative bubble clarifies that her negative feelings were directed at her own parents.
The blonde woman looks down with a melancholic expression as she continues her story. Silka recounts childhood lessons about being wary of higher-ranking peers.
Her parents warned her about being surpassed and urged her to be cautious. Ira once proposed a cruel game while Silka struggled with feelings of jealousy.
Narrative boxes describe how Silka envied the freedom that the blue-haired girl once displayed. A dark frame marks the beginning of Silka's mean-spirited behavior toward her peer.
Silka expressed disdain for Era's hobbies while feeling deeply disappointed in her own behavior.
Her father praised her for being cruel, claiming she was a true success.
Her parents, a close-up of Silka's green eyes reveals the depth of her current sorrow. She admits that she realized her mistakes too late and lacked the courage to apologize.
Silka laments that she would change her past choices if time travel were possible.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick sob sounding as Ira listens intently. Narrative bubbles reflect on the impossibility of reversing time to fix the past.
Ira kindly reminds her that the future is still unwritten and open to change. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick pat sounding as Ira offers comfort.
Silka asks for reassurance regarding the possibility of a fresh start.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick reach sounding as Ira offers friendship.
The blonde woman reaches out for Era's hand with tears streaming down her face.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick hug sounding as she expresses gratitude.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick wail sounding as Silka cries uncontrollably.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick chuckle sounding as Ira smiles warmly. The two former rivals share an emotional and healing embrace on the infirmary bed.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick bang sounding as a door opens.
A purple-haired woman enters the room and watches the emotional scene from the doorway.
Ira thanks the visitor and requests she ignore the emotional scene before her.
Silka begs the noblewoman to remain by her side for a while longer. Silka asks for a promise of companionship which the noblewoman happily grants.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick creak sounding as the visitor glares.
The bright sunlight begins to fade into a warm and glowing evening glow. The grand architecture of the palace stands silhouetted against the setting sun. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick click sounding as the door opens wide. Hearing her name shouted in frantic distress, the blue-haired woman reacts with a look of shock.
The group bombards Ira with frantic questions about her disappearance while demanding she gets into bed.
Looking overwhelmed and dizzy, the blue-haired woman insists that she is currently feeling perfectly fine.
The red-haired woman expresses her extreme worry and insists that Ira lies down to rest immediately.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick shout sounding as the group pushes Ira. Exhausted by the commotion, the blue-haired woman finally settles down onto the soft infirmary bed.
A voice questions if her reckless actions in the garden were truly meant to save Silka.
Randall asks about the fox Silka and confirms the Emperor's presence during the reckless garden incident.
Era explains her reconciliation with Silka and requests that her friends give the woman a chance.
The pink-haired woman's expression darkens as she asks for confirmation regarding the rumors of a hug. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick flutter sounding as Era's face turns bright red.
Lenny concludes that they were definitely hugging while Randall and Elfane listen to her confident assessment.
A close-up of the blue-haired man's eye reveals a moment of silent and contemplative observation.
Peeking out from behind the dark fabric, the blue-haired woman hears her name being called.
Maintaining a serious demeanor, Elfane states that he has something important he needs to tell her.
Ira looks back at him with confusion, questioning what exactly she is meant to know.
Elfane hesitates to speak, casting a brief and uncertain glance toward the brown-haired woman.
The brown-haired woman sighs deeply before addressing Ira as her big sister in the quiet room.
Bianca advises Ira to consider their father's political strategy as they discuss the day's events.
The grand interior of the palace is shown as the discussion shifts toward frequent imperial invitations.
The two women discuss their frequent interactions with the Grand Emperor and the Empress Dowager.
Randall admits her understanding of the situation while Lenny continues to look on with deep skepticism.
Bianca explains that her questions are intended to make Ira realize things she has previously overlooked. Ira realizes that her father's political allegiance seems to lean heavily toward the powerful imperial family. She questions how standard noble etiquette relates specifically to her father's unique and personal political style.
Rising from her seat, the brown-haired woman prepares to ask one final and clarifying question.
Bianca winks playfully while asking Era to recall how she usually reacts to people fighting.
Looking completely baffled, the blue-haired woman struggles to understand the point of this specific question.
Peeking back through the door, the brown-haired woman notes that she has provided ample hints. Her attention is taken by a sudden quick bang sounding as the door slams shut.
Ira finally understands the opportunistic nature of the political strategy that her sister was describing.
Bianca's eye peers through the doorway as she asks Lenny and Randall to wait outside.
Ira nervously summarizes the wise approach to conflict while Randall and Lenny watch with silent skepticism. A silent and intense gaze from the brown-haired woman lingers through the small opening of the door.
Randall expresses her relief while noting that she sensed a tense atmosphere coming from the doorway.
Ira confirms the tension was real while Lenny asks why she would choose to joke about it.
Lenny asks about Lady Bianca's true nature as the evening sun shines through the infirmary windows.
A flashback reveals a younger, upset Ira declaring that she will never speak to her brother again. In another childhood memory, the brown-haired woman checks on the young and upset blue-haired girl.
Bianca explains that Elfane's shouting was actually motivated by his fear of Ira getting herself hurt.
Bianca explains that Elfane lacks gentle speech, but reminds Ira of her own amazing and kind nature.
The young blue-haired girl reluctantly agrees to cut her brother some slack after her sister's encouragement.
A narrative bubble reflects on how much the young boy cried during that past emotional event. Elfane tearfully scolds Ira for her recklessness, claiming that she brought the dangerous situation upon herself. The emotional memory of the young boy crying his eyes out creates a deeply touching moment.
Bianca reminds Elfane that his shouting was shocking to Ira despite his obvious and deep worry.
Elfane blushes with surprise upon learning that Ira actually loves him, a fact he previously missed. Bianca tells Elfane that her revelation was a secret and notes that Ira would be embarrassed.
The two siblings share a warm smile while reflecting on their family's enduring and deep bonds.
Bianca clarifies that Ira has always maintained a neutral stance to prevent conflicts from escalating.
Lenny admits feeling betrayed upon learning the truth, but expresses deep admiration for Ira's admirable nature.
Era's close-up eye reflects the inner conflict of appearing neutral while knowing which side is truly right. Flashbacks show Elfane and Bianca in the palace while older women share tea in the garden sunlight. Era's father, a tall blonde man, affectionately pats her head within the grand halls of the palace.
A narrative box notes that despite their closeness to the imperial family, the siblings have specific boundaries.
Silhouetted against the dark, the siblings stand apart from Tail Kilton, having no political ties to him.
Ira looks on with a realization as her father interacts with other high-ranking nobles in the palace.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick clatter sounding as Ira realizes her father's true political position.
Era ponders the implications of a potential marriage proposal from Rubelos intended to secure her father's support. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick shudder sounding as Lenny and Randall react to the news.
Aira realizes that the Emperor's plan for power hinges on a misunderstanding of her father's current political support.
Lenny remains silent and contemplative, processing the weight of the political revelation Ira just shared with them.
Randall looks to the side with a puzzled expression, questioning the complexities of the Imperial family's motives.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick gulp sounding as the friends prepare to leave for the evening.
Lenny and Randall bid Ira a good night, encouraging her to rest after their long, exhausting day.
Gazing out at the blue moonlight, Ira determines that she must tell Rebellos the truth about her father. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick thud sounding as Ira leans against the wall in hesitation. A chibi version of the blue-haired woman sits on her bed, debating if telling him is right. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick wail sounding as Ira struggles with her conflicting internal emotions. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick click sounding as the woman decides to walk the gardens.
Rebellos approaches Ira in the moonlight, startling her as she tries to clear her busy, racing thoughts.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick turn sounding as Ira questions the Emperor's late-night presence. Rebellos explains his personal involvement in the interrogation of the man who threatened her and Lady Silka earlier. The Emperor declares his intent to uncover and punish every crime while Ira listens with a confused expression.
Ira questions if he truly came all this way just to deliver news about the prisoner's upcoming interrogation.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick twitch sounding as Rebellos reacts to Ira's blunt and honest question.
Rebellos smiles warmly and admits that his true motivation for coming was his genuine worry for her well-being.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick thud sounding as Ira's heart reacts to his unexpected confession.
Ira nervously insists she is fine, explaining that her back simply hurt from lying down for too long.
Rebellos insists on accompanying her for the rest of her walk to ensure she remains safe from danger. The Chibi Emperor is delighted when she agrees to his company, while Ira remains somewhat skeptical and weary.
Walking together through the night forest, Rebellos notes the pleasant breeze while Ira quietly agrees with his sentiment.
Ira feels crushed by guilt, wondering if she should reveal her father's support or continue keeping the secret.
Rebellos mistakenly assumes his presence is making things awkward for Ira as they walk through the quiet woods.
The blonde man expresses his understanding of her feelings, looking down with a somber and somewhat regretful expression. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick jolt sounding as Rebellos calls out her name, surprising her.
Rebellos reassures her that she needn't be embarrassed about being held, given the frightening circumstances they faced earlier.
He confesses that holding her made him so happy that he found it difficult to let her go. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick gasp sounding as Ira is left speechless by his words. A narrative bubble reflects on how his constant, charming behavior makes it incredibly easy for her to misunderstand. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick slump sounding as Ira looks away, feeling overwhelmed by him. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick breath sounding as Ira gathers the courage to speak up. Ira tells the Emperor they should stop their current interactions, leaving him looking stunned and asking for clarification.
Standing under the moonlight, Ira prepares to deliver an important message to the Emperor amidst the silent trees.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick snap sounding as Rebellos' purple eyes widen in sudden shock. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick rush sounding as the Emperor suddenly grabs and pulls her. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick thud sounding as the two fall to avoid a flying weapon. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick bang sounding as a sword strikes the tree near the assassins. Rebellos protects the blue-haired woman as his eyes glow with a fierce red intensity during the sudden ambush.
Ira is overwhelmed with confusion as Rebellos stands protectively before three masked assassins.
Rebellos firmly commands Ira to stand back as he prepares to face the encroaching threat.
Rebellos strikes with dark energy, knocking the masked assassins back as Ira watches in utter disbelief.
Dark energy erupts from the blonde man's hand as he exerts his formidable hidden magical strength.
The swirling black shadows overwhelm the assassins as Rebellos' powerful magical attack consumes the small clearing. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick wail sounding as the assassins are defeated instantly.
A massive explosion of dark energy illuminates the night forest, marking the end of the combat.
Silence returns to the moonlit woods after the brief and violent magical encounter has finally concluded.
Rebellos turns to Ira, asking if she is all right after witnessing his sudden and intense power.
Ira asks about the Emperor's actions while he apologizes for the shock his power surely caused. Rebellos confesses he possesses a secret power, noting his red eyes serve as the ultimate proof.
Ira shouts that Rebellos is injured, her eyes wide with shock as she notices his arm.
Ira points out the blood on his arm, causing Rebellos to look back with a surprised expression. Ira tells the Emperor not to move, insisting that she will treat his bleeding arm immediately.
Rebellos tries to dismiss the injury as nothing while rolling up his sleeve to reveal the wound.
Ira retorts that the wound is significant, looking at him with a determined and concerned expression. The blue-haired woman expresses her deep worry, noting that he is bleeding far too much for comfort. Ira tearfully wraps a makeshift bandage around the Emperor's arm to stop the steady flow of blood. She wonders how he could keep such a massive power hidden from the world for so long.
Rebellos looks down at Ira and gently reassures her that they are both safe from danger now.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick pause sounding as Ira stares at him in realization.
The blonde man looks at Ira with a soft, blushing expression as the tension of battle fades. I recall seeing his red eyes when she was 4, noting how much time has passed since.
A close-up shows the blonde man softly whispering Ira's name while looking at her with deep affection.
Rubelos asks the blue-haired woman if she would be willing to give him just one more chance.
Ira looks down, stating she has something important to tell him before they proceed any further. Ira reveals that her father has actually been on the side of the imperial family all along.
She explains that this allegiance may have existed even before the current emperor was even born.
Rubelos admits his awareness, confirming he has known the truth about her father's political stance for years.
He acknowledges her honesty, but points out that the House of Ildenbisten still supports the rival prince. Rubelos asks why she mentioned it now and questions if she doubts the sincerity of his confession. Ira is stunned, asking if the emperor already knew about her family's true and secret political allegiance.
Rubelos asks if he seems so foolish that he couldn't distinguish a true friend from a foe.
Looking puzzled, Ira asks why he chose to propose if he already knew about her father's support.
She wonders if he likes her or if the proposal was a political move to secure power.
Rubelos is outraged, asking if she truly believes he proposed merely to gain control over her house. He asks if she thinks he is so shameless as to propose to a woman he dislikes. Rubelos asks why she doesn't know his character after liking him so long. Ira admits her ignorance. Ira points out that he has never once told her his true feelings in all their years.
Rubelos looks away in silent grief, a single tear falling as he processes the weight of her words.
Ira recounts how her greetings, letters, and gifts were met with nothing but silence from him. The emperor claims that he never once received a response or acknowledgement to his own various efforts. Crying, the blue-haired woman admits she was convinced his silence meant that he truly hated her. Rubelos insists he has never hated her, looking down with an expression filled with regret and sorrow.
Ira looks up at him with watery eyes, asking what his true intentions and feelings actually are.
Ira smiles, suggesting the story is only beginning and cannot be judged by its short prologue alone.
Rubelos reflects on the beginning of their new play, realizing the future depends entirely on his choices.
Rubelos states that sharing his history doesn't mean he expects her to immediately understand or forgive him. The two stand together in the moonlight, facing the uncertain and complicated future of their shared relationship. The moon hangs high over the silent forest, marking a pivotal turning point in their long-standing story. Narrative boxes explain how the late emperor seized the throne by purging all his brothers. The late emperor cherished his youngest brother Tael to atone for his violent past sins. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick smirk, sounding as Tael reveals a sly expression.
Rubelos reflects on how Tael began venting his anger once Rubelos was named the next successor.
Tael's malice started with small acts of destruction against the young prince's personal belongings and studies.
The narrative laments how Tael eventually progressed to destroying everything the young prince held dear. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick sob sounding as young Rubelos weeps over his cat.
Rubelos recalls a rare moment of light shared with Ira during their childhood in the forest.
Tael hums a tune while walking through the palace, hiding his true, dark intentions. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick gasp sounding as Rubelos encounters his intimidating uncle.
Tael notes Rubelos' seriousness toward Ira, causing the young prince to tremble in sudden, visible fear.
Rubelos admits that becoming emperor failed to resolve the deep-seated fears he kept hidden for years. In a painful memory, Rubelos tells Ira he will disappear from her sight to protect her. Rubelos stands among fallen bodies, regretting his inability to reach Ira's heart during that tragic day. Ira recalls the metallic scent of blood on that day, originally mistaking it for her own tears. Ira laments the foolishness of their long-standing misunderstanding while looking out at the moonlit trees. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick gasp sounding as Rubelos reacts to her blunt assessment. Crying, Ira demands to know why he didn't share the truth before pushing her away so cruelly.
Ira shouts that she would have waited and done anything for him if he had been honest.
Rubelos looks at her with pained eyes, softly calling her name as her tears continue to fall. Rubelos explains that keeping her at a distance was the only way he knew how to protect her.
Ira wipes her eyes, asking if he understands how much she suffered alone in his absence.
Rubelos pulls her into an embrace, promising to be completely honest and never leave her side again. Rubelos begs for one more chance before she considers seeing Daniel, leaving her looking utterly bewildered.
Rubelos anxiously questions if she has already developed deep feelings for Daniel during their time apart.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick snap sounding as Ira angrily defends her true feelings.
A close-up shows Rubelos' red eye as he processes the weight of her sudden emotional outburst.
A slight smirk plays on Rubelos' lips as he begins to realize the implication of her words.
Rubelos asks if her current presence means she still harbors deep romantic feelings for him.
Turning away with a slight blush, Ira coyly avoids giving him a direct and simple answer. Ira tells the Emperor he must put in significant effort if he truly wishes to be with her. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick glow sounding as Rubelos beams with a joyful smile. As they walk, Ira insists they stay close together because the night forest remains dark and dangerous.
A dark-haired man reflects on someone hiding in the bushes during the events of that fateful day.
The Duke threatens a subordinate with a fate worse than a dungeon to ensure total future compliance.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick rustle sounding as the men investigate a nearby noise. The Duke breathes a heavy sigh, contemplating Era Wildenbisten's role in his current, complex political schemes.
Narrative boxes recall how Ira and the princes frequently crossed paths as children in the palace gardens.
Young Ira runs toward her brother while the Duke determines to treat her with friendly, deceptive warmth. The Duke decides that appearing kind and warm is the best way to handle the influential Graal.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick bang sounding as a frantic messenger delivers terrible news.
The messenger reports that the safety of both Emperor Rebelos and Lady Ira has been officially confirmed.
The Duke scolds his accomplice for failing to strike while Ira was alone as originally ordered.
A chandelier hangs above the tenth scene as the failed assassin prepares to offer a weak excuse.
The brown-haired man explains that the target just happened to be walking with the Emperor at night.
The Duke remains silent, his posture radiating a cold and calculating fury over the mission's failure.
Narrative bubbles reflect the Duke's disgust for the man's cocky attitude and lack of any real ability.
The Duke tells the man that incompetence makes him sick, while the subordinate offers a desperate apology.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick flinch sounding as the man denies any intentional wrongdoing.
The Duke asks if he remembers the fate of prior fools as the man bows in terrified obedience.
Tail laughs off the tension, dismissing his previous dark threats as a mere joke.
Tail ominously declares that regardless of the current struggle, everything will eventually be his.
Wildenbisten pleads for Era's safety, while the dark-haired man offers a cold, insincere agreement.
Tail notes that antagonizing the House of Wildenbisten serves no purpose for his current plans.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick sob sounding as the mustache man panics.
The blonde man ponders, making his wound bleed more to ensure he gains Era's sympathy. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick gasp sounding as Rubelis examines his bandages.
The attendant explains how worried Ira was, but the Emperor pretends to be utterly confused.
Rubelis walks away dismissively while his attendant fears for his life over the Emperor's behavior.
Ira sits alone at her vanity, lost in thought as she prepares for the evening.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick bang sounding as Ira turns in shock.
Era looks toward the source of the noise, her expression filled with confusion and sudden concern.
A jagged speech bubble conveys her startled cry as she recognizes the person entering her room.
Rubelos stands before her with a dazed, blushing expression, looking unusually vulnerable and quite disoriented. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick groan sounding as Rubelos clutches his aching head.
Ira rushes toward the Emperor, frantically asking if he is all right as he stumbles.
Narrative bubbles explain his clumsy attempt to rewrap his own loose bandages during the walk. Rubelos claims he tripped and hit his head while trying to fix the messy, unraveling bandages.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick groan sounding as Ira helps him inside. Era worries about the bandage coming undone while preparing to treat the Emperor's new head injury.
Looking at Era's focused and worried face, Rubelos thinks to himself how incredibly cute she is. The Emperor dramatically claims he might have collapsed if she hadn't arrived to save him.
Ira continues to worry about his well-being while carefully rewrapping the bandages around his arm.
Rubelos nonchalantly mentions his bones heal fast, leaving Ira stunned by the implication of past injuries.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick gasp sounding as Ira reacts to the news.
Ira demands to know why he's only mentioning such a serious past injury right now.
Rubelos realizes her intense worry is proof of her deep love for him, making him smirk. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick thud sounding as Rubelos describes his fake symptoms.
Ira jumps up, declaring she will fetch a doctor immediately to address his alarming physical state.
Rubelos reaches out and grabs her hand, stopping her from leaving the room in her panic. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick rustle sounding as Ira trips on the loose bandage. Ira loses her balance and falls backward with her eyes shut tight, anticipating a hard impact.
Rubelos catches her just in time, pulling her close into his arms to prevent her fall.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick gasp sounding as Rubelos stares down at her.
Ira looks up at him from his embrace, the world seeming to stop for a moment.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick glance sounding as Ira realizes something is amiss. Rubelos asks if she is hurt while staring intently into her eyes, maintaining their close proximity.
Ira points out his arm seems perfectly sturdy despite his claims of a serious bone fracture.
Rubelos cheesily claims that he is recovering exceptionally fast today specifically because of her presence.
The Emperor thanks her with a soft smile while casually rolling his sleeve back into place.
Ira asks if he acted pitiful and used medical treatment just as an excuse for closeness.
Rubelos admits he exaggerated his pain, but insists that he was still hurting to some degree. The blonde man looks down with a faint blush, appearing bashful after being caught in his act.
Ira looks at him with a stunned, blushing expression after hearing his blunt, honest confession.
Rubelos looks away in embarrassment, thinking that she will probably just assume he is lying again.
Ira retorts that she was the pitiful one for 8 years while Rubelos apologizes profusely. The blonde man sits in silence, admitting to himself that he was a pathetic coward.
Rubelos laments how he spent years running away and pushing her away like a fool.
He expresses his deep, agonizing regret for leaving the blue-haired woman alone for so long. Rubelos tells Era she can treat him as cruelly as she likes to balance their history. Rubelos promises to confess his love every day until Era's deep-seated anger finally fades away. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick sob sounding as Era's eyes well up.
Rubellus gently strokes Era's hair while she cries, finding her emotional reaction to be quite annoying.
Ira wipes her eyes, lamenting that her composure and makeup are now completely and utterly ruined.
Rubellus catches Ira off guard by stating that this apology will officially be the final time.
Blushing, Ira declares she will go study abroad in a country full of many handsome men.
Rubellus breaks into a wide, joyful smile, his eyes shining with sudden and genuine delight.
Rubellus lifts Ira high into the air as she lets out a startled, joyful cry.
Ira calls out to the Emperor in surprise while he gazes at her with deep affection.
Rubellus pulls Ira into a tight, warm embrace, laughing happily as he holds her close.
Narrative bubbles question what is inside the open medical case sitting on the wooden table nearby.
Ira warns the Emperor that if he fakes another injury, she will break something for real.
The couple sits together on the white sofa, surrounded by lush greenery and warm sunlight.
A narrative box announces the long end of unrequited love and the beginning of true love.
Ira looks troubled under a gray sky, realizing things have taken a very strange new direction. Narrative boxes explain that events began to move in a very strange and unexpected direction. Guards shout for Emperor Rubellus as the scene shifts to the grand exterior of the palace. The blue-haired man asks if they lost the Emperor while his companion giggles behind her hand. Several women search for Lady Ira, worrying that she might have gotten lost or disappeared entirely. The women decide not to worry, imagining Ira enjoying herself in some new, unknown place. A red-haired woman and her companions search for Era, worrying about the Duchess's potential reaction. The blue-haired man and a companion are shocked as the red-haired woman suddenly approaches them. The group laughs together, wondering where the two runaways could have possibly hidden themselves.
The scene transitions to a quiet, decorated archway inside a less frequented part of the palace.
Off-screen voices discuss a bad move on a game board while the scene remains quiet.
Ira points at the chessboard, realizing the Emperor has made a very significant tactical error.
Rubellus realizes he is in trouble and decides to take Era's queen to even things. Ira assumes he has much chess experience, but Rubellus reveals this is his first game ever.
Rubellus explains he wins by focusing on finishing quickly, while Ira questions his sudden haste. Rubellus begins his explanation, reaching out his hand with a mysterious and knowing look.
Rubellus gently tucks a lock of Era's hair behind her ear, leaving her quite stunned.
Ira hides her blushing face in her hands while Rubellus calls her reaction absolutely adorable. The blue-haired man explains this unused wing is the only place the Emperor can hide.
A thought bubble compares the hidden Emperor to a mouse trapped in a small, tight space. The blue-haired man scolds his companion for calling the great Emperor a mere little mouse.
The red-haired woman expresses her amazement at the solemn vow the Emperor made to Ira.
A flashback shows the young princes crossing wooden toy swords during a childhood training session.
The two young boys stand together, having just finished their playful duel in the palace gardens.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick wind sounding as the boys examine their wounds.
The young boys declare themselves sworn brothers while the adults look on and laugh heartily. A woman scolds Elphane for injuring the crown prince, while another explains it's just play.
A narrative bubble warns that one must never address the crown prince in such a manner.
Rubellus smiles while holding Bianca as the blue-haired man counts on her to protect him.
Chibi figures show the family laughing while the blue-haired man reflects on their overall kindness. The blue-haired man warns that they must be careful how they speak about the Emperor.
The red-haired woman points toward a door, announcing that they have finally reached the last room.
A narrative bubble clarifies that the speaker won't become a criminal just to help her sister. The red-haired woman leads the group toward the door, ready to barge in on the couple. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick bang sounding as the group interrupts the meeting.
The group realizes they interrupted a chess match, but the white-haired woman denies the simple explanation.
Iris stutters in shock, asking why everyone has suddenly barged into the private room together. Rubellus and Ira remain at the chess table, looking nervous as the group interrupts them. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick wince, sounding as Elphane demands an explanation.
Elphane bellows at Rubellus to take his hands off his sister in a fit of rage.
The blue-haired man calls Rubellus an insolent wretch while the other women watch them silently.
Rubellus apologizes for the secrecy, explaining he planned to announce their relationship to everyone very soon.
The Emperor continues to hold Era's hand firmly, signaling his commitment despite the sudden confrontation. Elphane stands with his ash-gray-haired companion, his expression remaining incredibly tense and skeptical of Rubellus.
Rubellus stares directly at Elphane, formally declaring that he and Lady Ira are in love.
Elphane refuses to accept the declaration, reminding the Emperor of how much he previously hurt Ira. Surrounding himself with a dark aura, Elphane warns Rubellus to stay away from his sister forever.
Rubellus tries to address Elphane as a brother, but the blue-haired man rejects any further excuses.
Elphane insists that even a good excuse won't erase Ira's past pain and long-standing suffering.
The protective brother pleads with Rubellus not to disturb Era's heart now that she's happy. The ash-gray-haired woman and her companions observe the heavy emotional exchange from the palace doorway. Elfin looks at Ira with deep resolve, vowing to protect his sister's smile at any cost. The scene shifts to the grand palace gardens, where sunlight filters through the lush green trees.
Ira sits alone on a wooden park bench, appearing deeply contemplative under the bright garden sun.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick sigh sounding as Ira slumps over in exhaustion. Watching from afar, Elfane questions if his previous promises to protect Era's happiness are working. Elfane's companion suggests that time will eventually heal Era's heart while they wait and watch.
A narrative bubble reflects on the 12 long years Ira spent waiting for this single moment.
A flashback shows a young Era watching Rubellos walk away, questioning if she has suffered enough. Elfane acknowledges the painful truth that Ira still deeply desires to be by the Emperor's side. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick grumble sounding as Elfane's anger keeps him awake. The ash-gray-haired woman places a comforting hand on Elfane, asking if he remembers their true goal. Rubellos approaches the bench where Ira is sitting, his presence casting a long shadow over her. Narrative bubbles explain that Elfine is finally allowing Rubellos to prioritize Era's true personal happiness. Ira begins to smile brightly as Rubellos presents her with a small white daisy from the garden. Sunlight glints off the Emperor's ornate blue uniform as he stands before the laughing, blue-haired woman. Ira beams with joy, confirming that she is truly happy as she looks up at Rubellos. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick tap sounding as a polished boot hits the stone. Ira looks toward the newcomer with a radiant, blushing expression, her eyes wide with sudden delight. Her expression shifts to shock as she realizes the most powerful elders of the family arrived. Elfane stands tall as he officially addresses Ira and Rubellos in front of the entire group. The group stands together in the sunlit garden, their colorful outfits reflecting the warm palace atmosphere. Rubellos and Ira are both startled, looking toward the group with expressions of pure, unadulterated shock.
The ash-gray-haired woman looks toward Era with a knowing, gentle smile from the side of the path.
Rubellos pulls Ira into a protective embrace, ignoring the onlookers as they hold on to each other.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick squeeze sounding as the families finally reunite together. Bianca eats a pink macaron while her companion asks why she didn't give it to Era. Bianca admits she thought Ira didn't want it, continuing to snack while looking toward the couple. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick gasp sounding as they realize they are being watched. The Duke, Duchess, Grand Emperor, and Empress Dowager stand together, their arrival causing a massive stir. The elder Duke scolds Bianca for her manners while reminiscing about her past habit of eating sweets.
Bianca apologizes for her behavior as the Empress Dowager watches the young women with a smile.
The blue-haired Duke reacts with wide-eyed disbelief as he takes in the sight of the couple. A speech bubble expresses utter shock, as if a character cannot believe what they are seeing. Rubellos and Era are shown from behind on the bench as the families discover them. Chibi versions of Bianca and her companion react with wide-eyed shock at being discovered by everyone. The Duke and Grand Emperor discuss how relaxed Rubellos and Ira have become together lately.
As the elders walk ahead, the pink-haired companion notes that they are just saying whatever they want.
Bianca looks troubled as she realizes it is only a matter of time before the family catches on. The following morning, the Imperial Palace remains grand as everyone searches for the missing Emperor Rubellos. Rubellos attempts to leave for urgent business while his assistant desperately clings to his white uniform. His assistant cries while remembering the young ladies who keep pestering him about the Emperor's location.
The gray-haired assistant pleads for Rubellos to stay just this once for his own personal sake.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick pop sounding as Rubellos pulls his arm away.
Rubellos warns the blue-haired woman that she will gain weight from the delicious sweets they shared.
Rubellos tells Era she is already cute, wondering what would happen if she became even cuter. Ira blushes and tells him not to tease her while he finds her reaction adorable. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick tap sounding as approaching footsteps echo nearby. The Duke and Grand Emperor discover the couple, questioning what they are doing in such isolation. Ira and Rubellos worry if they can talk their way out of being caught by them. The Duke looks at Era with wide eyes, shocked to see his daughter with the Emperor.
The Duke scolds Ira for keeping someone so busy with important state affairs tied up like this.
The Duke bows while apologizing for his daughter's immature behavior in taking up the Emperor's time. The Grand Emperor discusses lifelong student relationships, while Rubellos mentions his thoughts regarding the Duke's mentorship. A narrative thought bubble reflects on the difficulty of adding one more child to the family. Rubellos and the Duke talk while Ira offers a quiet apology for her presence and behavior. The Grand Emperor claims rulers aren't busy, causing a dark aura to form around the Duke. The Grand Emperor nervously explains that everything comes with side effects, while the Duke's anger grows. The blonde Empress Dowager tells Era to slip out quietly while the men remain distracted. Rubellos gives a thumbs up as Ira begins to sneak away while his mother winks conspiratorially. The elders argue loudly about welfare policy, allowing the young couple to safely sneak out together. Grand ornate doors decorated with gold trims stand closed as the scene shifts to the hallway. Ira and Rubellos check their surroundings, sighing in relief that they managed to get through safely. Rubellos and Ira giggle quietly together, sharing a lighthearted moment after their successful narrow escape.
The couple laughs heartily, comparing their parents' behavior to that of children fighting over petty things.
Ira and Rubelos tease each other about who fights like whom, comparing their fathers to Elfane.
Ira and Rubelos share a silent, meaningful look as they stand together in the sunlit palace.
Rubelos laughs at the comparison, his eyes closed as he enjoys the playful humor of the moment.
Ira laughs along with him, her hand to her mouth as she beams with genuine happiness.
Moonlight filters through the large windows of the palace tower, glowing brightly against the night sky.
Elegantly dressed guests gather in the grand ballroom, their shadows casting long shapes across the floor.
Polished black boots walk gracefully across the carpeted floor as the evening's festivities continue in earnest.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick gasp sounding as Ira recognizes her mother nearby.
Rubelos greets the Empress Dowager as his mother approaches the couple with a calm, steady look.
Chibi versions of the parents scold the pair for sneaking out and being rude to guests.
The Duke notes they have been together a lot lately, questioning if they were sneaking out.
Ira and Rubelos frantically deny the accusation, shouting that they weren't trying to sneak out together.
The Duke stares at them with a skeptical expression, wondering if they have figured it out.
Rubelos looks down thoughtfully, suggesting he was mistaken and that the truth remains hidden for now.
Chibi parents dismiss the idea, laughing as they agree the two would never do anything wild.
The Chibi Duke reminds them they are adults and should be especially careful with their actions.
Ira and Rubelos stand quietly together, looking slightly nervous as the elders move past them.
The couple smiles brightly, happy to have smoothed things over and hoping to keep it up.
Rubelos and Ira decide to tidy themselves up before heading back to the main party hall.
The parents watch them leave, commenting on how both children have grown in very ideal ways.
Bianca and her companion peek from behind a marble pillar, relieved that they barely made it.
Bianca dreads the looming mess while a brown-haired man questions their presence in the quiet garden.
The man questions their absence from the party hall while looking at the women with deep suspicion.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick sounding as the women drag the man away.
Bianca leads the group through the lush palace gardens to find a safe and quiet, secluded spot.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick gasp sounding as the brown-haired man finally catches his breath. The startled man asks for an explanation while Bianca urgently demands silence for a very important announcement.
Bianca reveals Ira and Rubelos are a couple, shocking her companion as she demands a lower volume. The woman in the elegant blue dress repeats the shocking news with a look of pure disbelief.
The group realizes their seclusion isn't absolute as they discuss the possibility of someone else being nearby.
The blue-haired dude questions the source of a noise while the younger group reacts in chibi shock.
The elders decide to confront the couple after the party, with the Duke vowing a personal conversation.
The Grand Emperor and Empress anticipate a long and busy night following the Duke's stern reaction.
Night falls on the palace grounds, casting long shadows over the quiet and beautifully lit rooms inside.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick creak sounding as Ira admits she enjoyed the day.
Rubelos playfully demands a reward for protecting her, causing the blushing blue-haired woman to ask for clarification.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick rustle sounding as Rubelos leans closer with a flirtatious intent. Ira whispers a protest about their proximity while Rubelos gently takes her hands in his own.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick squeak sounding as someone moves across the ornate blue room.
Rubelos freezes in place, his eyes widening in alarm as he senses an unexpected presence in the room.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick shh sounding as a man demands to know who's there.
The blue-haired Duke stands tall and his expression incredibly imposing.
Rubelos attempts to explain the situation as a misunderstanding, but the Duke remains skeptical and deeply unimpressed.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick gasp sounding as Ira frantically tries to explain her presence.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick thud sounding as the Duke asks if they're fools.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick jolt sounding as the Duke dismisses their excuses as pointless.
The Duke scolds Rubelos for entering the ladies' dormitory, noting that his position as emperor aggravates the offense.
The Duke harshly critiques their lack of maturity and responsibility, reminding them of their high social status. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick tug sounding as the Duke pulls Ira away from Rubelos. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick cry sounding as Rubelos desperately pleads for the Duke to wait.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick swish sounding as the Duke ignores Rubelos and continues walking.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick snap sounding as Rubelos looks at his hands in disbelief. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick thump sounding as Ira asks where they're being taken.
The Duke grimly announces their immediate departure for home, his patience completely at its end.
The Duke delivers his final judgment, declaring that the blue-haired woman is grounded until further notice.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick clatter sounding as Ira protests her unfair and childish punishment. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick sounding as the Duke dismisses Ira's adult claims. Ira stands in stunned silence as the weight of her father's strict punishment finally sinks in.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick click sounding as the Duke marches past his worried family.
The family members observe the tension, noting that this is the very first time the Duke has grounded anyone.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick snicker sounding as the family teases the Duke's parenting style. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick snap sounding as Rubelos throws off a white clothing cover. Rubelus's assistant watches in confusion as the Emperor frantically searches through his wardrobe for the perfect outfit. Her attention is taken by a sudden quick thump sounding as Rubelos rejects his current selection of clothes.
The green-haired assistant questions why Rubelos is so focused on his clothing design during the middle of a party.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick rustle sounding as Rubelos explains he must impress someone conservative.
Rubella scolds his assistant for calling his mentor stubborn, insisting that the Duke is a respected hero instead.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick hum sounding as the assistant stares at the Emperor in silence.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick swish sounding as Rubelos declares that none of his outfits work.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick plop sounding as Rubelos discards his shoes across the floor.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick click sounding as Rubelos steps out in a new uniform.
Rubelos marches with intense focus, demanding his fastest horses and a carriage be prepared immediately.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick whisper sounding as guests discuss Era's sudden disappearance. Her attention is taken by a sudden quick snap sounding as the pink-haired girl dismisses Daniel's questions. Her attention is taken by a sudden quick potter sounding as the aide questions Rubelos' destination.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick sigh sounding as Rubelos predicts a potentially fatal outcome.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick jolt sounding as Rubelos grimly predicts his own demise.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick gasp sounding as the aide reacts with pure shock.
Rubelos boards his carriage, asking for prayers for his safety while his assistant cries out.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick thud sounding as the carriage door slams shut.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick rattle sounding as the imperial carriage speeds away.
Rubelos gazes out the window with a heavy heart, lost in thought during the ride.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick clatter sounding as Rubelos observes the scenery.
A flashback reveals a younger Rubelos with a mournful expression, reflecting on a difficult past.
The young Rubelos stands before his imposing blue-haired mentor on the palace training grounds.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick whoosh sounding as magical projectiles fly across the courtyard.
The blue-haired Duke moves with blinding speed, his cape fluttering as he maneuvers during training. Her attention is taken by a sudden quick hum sounding as young Rubelos conjures magic.
Rubelos raises his hand to direct his power upward, struggling to maintain control of the magic.
The young boy reacts with a start as the projectiles change course, testing his defensive reflexes.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick ping sounding as the boy deflects magical weapons.
Young Rubelos lands gracefully on the stone tiles, his breathing heavy as the intense training continues. Magic surges through the boy, his eyes glowing red as he prepares a powerful offensive counterattack.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick boom sounding as a massive pillar erupts.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick crash sounding as the blast scatters debris.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick clink sounding as the projectiles fall away.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick puff sounding as the boy catches his breath. Her attention is taken by a sudden quick flash sounding as the smoke clears. Young Rubelos looks up in awe, seeing that his strongest attack was stopped with absolute ease. The blue-haired Duke observes his student with a calm gaze as the smoke clears.
A thought bubble reveals the boy's disbelief that his mentor blocked him with one finger. The Duke lectures the boy, explaining that defense is the foundation and scolding his reckless greed. Rubelos argues that offense is the best solution, but the Duke warns of an emperor's unpredictable enemies.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick snap sounding as the Duke scolds him.
Frustrated, the boy yells that his father's kindness made him a fool who was easily betrayed.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick pinch sounding as the Duke disciplines the boy.
The Duke tells Rubelos to watch his mouth, his expression stern as he defends Johann.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick whisper sounding as the Duke proposes a secret.
The Duke leans in close to the boy, sharing a private truth about the ruler. A thought bubble shows young Rubelos questioning if his father was actually a fool.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick blink sounding as the boy stares in silence.
The Duke explains that Johann believed in kindness because it brought more blessings than pain.
They look out at the horizon together as the Duke describes Johann's many allies.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick sigh sounding as the mentor reflects.
The Duke admits that Johann's way of life wasn't bad, calling him the first example.
A young Rubelos finally smiles, his expression brightening as he begins to understand his father's legacy.
Reinvigorated, the boy raises his fists and takes a fighting stance, ready to resume his training.
The Duke's expression softens as he warns that trusting others always carries a hidden, dangerous cost.
A narrative box recounts Johann's warning that the imperial family's history is forever stained with blood. Young Rubelos walks alone, surrounded by the hostile silhouettes of his many ambitious brothers.
Rubelos smiles while showing a toy to a friend, briefly escaping the palace's cold darkness.
A blonde boy weeps over his shattered toys, while those he trusted laugh and deceive him. A small blonde child finds solace in a book, the narrative identifying him as the exception.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick swish sounding as the boy reveals a hidden magic.
The black-haired boy happily presents a small wooden toy horse and carriage to his blonde friend. Her attention is taken by a sudden quick cheer sounding as the boy jumps for the toy. The story explains that in the brutal palace, Tail was the only person Johann truly trusted.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick laugh sounding as a blue-haired youth joins them. The three friends race across a sunlit meadow, their laughter echoing in the wide green field.
A dark screen looms as the narrative reveals that everyone once shared a singular dark goal.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick whisper sounding as silhouettes plot in the shadows.
The narrative details a conspiracy to kill both Johann and his mother, the lawful reigning empress.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick thump sounding as Johann's mother collapses while coughing blood.
Johann sits upon the throne as Tail kneels before him, seeking redemption in the cold palace.
The narrative reflects on how love is ultimately useless when attempting to protect those most cherished.
The text explains that Johann eventually purged every enemy except for his one trusted friend, Tail.
The young emperor stares at his bloodied hands, his expression twisted by the weight of his actions.
With a somber face, the blonde man places the golden crown upon his own head alone.
Johann officially becomes the emperor, though the story notes the victory arrived with a heavy price.
The narrative explains that neither the emperor nor Tail could ever return to their former innocence.
The emperor looks down at a sleeping infant, his expression softening with a hint of hope.
The story marks the birth of a child as a pivotal turning point in the emperor's life.
Tail gazes upon the baby with joy, caring for the child as if it were his own.
The narrative recalls the peaceful beauty of the scene as the two men watch over the child.
The blonde Emperor Rubilus explains that he first thought trusting someone might not be a mistake.
Ira listens as he suggests that making the choice to trust is not always a wrong decision.
Rubelos maintains a steady gaze, reflecting on the lessons learned from his father's complicated, painful past.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick pat sounding as Rubelos calls Tail a good person.
Rubelos admits he is unsure if the man is truly good or simply hiding his true feelings.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick hum sounding as Ira explains her reasons for speaking.
Rubelos tells her she should trust people if she wants as he looks at her warmly.
The blue-haired duke sitting on the couch blunt asks what the point of their visit is. He asks if they traveled all this way just to tell him a familiar old family story.
Sipping tea, the duke claims even begging wouldn't grant permission to date while he receives lectures. Rubelos firmly tells the duke that the story is actually an important lesson he must hear.
The emperor tells the older man there is something specific he does not know about the situation.
Turning toward him, the duke asks for clarification on what he could have possibly missed out. Rubelos mentions that there is something important about Uncle Tail that the duke does not know.
A flashback reveals a young Rubelos excitedly calling out for his uncle to look at him.
Young Rubelos shows a drawing to the black-haired Tail while Emperor Johann and the duke watch.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick pat sounding as Tail mentions her great fondness.
The young boy agrees, calling the man his father's friend and a genuinely good, kind person.
Tail repeats the phrase good person to himself, finding it to be a lovely and touching sentiment. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick patter sounding as the two walk through the garden.
The black-haired man and the young prince spend quiet time together reading in the vast library.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick whoosh sounding as they study and practice sword fighting. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick flash sounding as Tail teaches the boy about magic.
Tail praises the boy's progress, predicting he will become a great emperor just like his father before.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick sparkle sounding as the young prince smiles with joy. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick sigh sounding as Rubelos sleeps near a small chest. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick click sounding as a hand opens a small box. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick rustle sounding as small, broken fragments spill from the box. Young Rubelos looks down at the box in his hands, his purple eyes wide with shock and sadness.
Inside the wooden chest lies a shattered nutcracker toy and a broken fountain pen among the debris.
The young prince reflects on how everything was perfectly fine until yesterday, unable to understand the destruction. Her attention is taken by a sudden quick creak sounding as the boy stands alone in his room.
A black-haired man in a military uniform enters the room and asks Rubelos what is troubling him.
Rubelos forces a nervous smile and quickly closes the lid, insisting that nothing is wrong at all. The man tells the boy he understands and encourages him to work hard during his training session. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick squeeze sounding as Rubelos thanks his uncle for the encouragement.
A narrative box reveals that the items Rubelos treasured most have begun to break one by one.
The destruction is shown further as a valuable book appears torn and ruined on the floor. Rubelos kneels on the stone floor in despair as he realizes his favorite things are being systematically destroyed.
The young prince realizes that he wasn't just being careless, suspecting a more malicious intent behind the events.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick click sounding as someone walks down the dark palace hallway. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick stop sounding as Rubelos observes his uncle from the shadows. Rubelos is horrified to see his uncle holding his missing toy horse, confirming his worst fears of betrayal. The boy stares in disbelief from his hiding spot, realizing the person he trusted is his tormentor. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick rustle sounding as the boy hides further behind a pillar.
Tail speaks with the subordinate while holding the toy horse, his expression cold and entirely indifferent.
A dark command is issued from the shadows, ordering the subordinate to get rid of the item immediately.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick bow sounding as the aide follows the uncle's cruel orders. Her attention is taken by a sudden quick throb sounding as Rubellos realizes Tail has been sabotaging him.
Rubello sits on his bed in the dark, processing the fact that he has been deceived for years. He recalls the sight of Tail holding the toy, a moment that shattered his remaining innocence and trust.
A narrative box explains that his father and mentor trusted his uncle right up until the very end. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick shake sounding as Rubellos clenches his fist in silent resolve.
The young prince's face is filled with intense rage as he vows never to forgive the man's betrayal.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick stomp sounding as Rubellos walks determinedly through the palace halls. He watches through a door as his father and Tail share a laugh, unaware of the uncle's true nature.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick chuckle sounding as the adults continue their cheerful conversation.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick click sounding as Rubellos stops and stares at the floor. The boy decides that the time for confrontation has not yet arrived, hardening his heart for the future. Rubello stands alone on the training grounds, holding a practice sword under the vast, clear blue sky.
He remembers his mentor's advice about defense, but decides it doesn't apply to the threat posed by Tail.
A dark, swirling shadow in his mind represents the growing resentment and focus on his eventual revenge. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick huff sounding as Rubellos prepares himself for a serious strike. The young prince vows to end the cycle of betrayal and deception with his own two hands.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick hum sounding as a glowing magical circle appears on the ground.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick creak sounding as Rubellos grips the hilt of his sword tightly. The boy looks forward with a cold and determined gaze, his resolve stronger than it has ever been. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick whack sounding as Rubellos strikes a wooden training dummy. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick rustle sounding as someone peeks through a bush of roses.
A young blue-haired girl jumps out from the bushes and excitedly calls out to Prince Rubellos.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick gasp sounding as Rubellos turns around in total surprise. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick patter sounding as Ira runs toward the startled prince.
Era hugs him as Rubellos asks what she's doing at the palace and if she's following his mentor.
Ira happily explains that she asked her father to bring her because she specifically wanted to see Rubellos.
Rubellos questions her, and Era reminds him that he said she could come visit him at any time. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick pat sounding as Rubellos smiles and calls her a good girl. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick rustle sounding as sunlight filters through the forest.
Ira explains that she wanted to return to the grove where they first met years ago.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick hum sounding as she recalls meeting her love.
Ira declares the Great Imperial Grove as her absolute favorite place in the whole world.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick chuckle sounding as Rubellos enjoys her happy presence.
Rubellos asks if she shares his feelings, and she confirms with an enthusiastic and bright response.
They share a tender moment as they continue their stroll through the sun-drenched palace gardens.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick smirk sounding as Tail observes the young prince. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick thump sounding as Rubellos senses a looming threat.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick patter sounding as Era invites him to play.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick jolt sounding as Rubellos coldly refuses her request. Ira is left stunned and deeply confused by the prince's sudden and harsh change in attitude. Rubellos turns his back on his friend, claiming he no longer has any time for games. Tears well in Era's eyes as she struggles to understand why he's being so cruel. He reminds her of his duty as crown prince, placing his heavy responsibilities above their friendship. Ira stands alone on the vast training grounds, watching the prince distance himself from her life. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick tap sounding as she walks away in despair.
The young girl looks back one last time, hoping for any sign of his old warbs.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick whisper sounding as she calls to the prince.
Ira worries that his gloominess is due to the heavy burdens of his many royal duties.
She suspects someone is pressuring him and decides to seek help from her father at once. Rubellos watches her leave from the shadows, secretly vowing to protect her from all hidden harm.
A silent promise echoes through the darkness as he commits to keeping her safe forevermore.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick crash sounding as Rubellos destroys a training target. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick pant sounding as the boy catches his breath.
A thin sliver of light reveals the grandeur of the Imperial Palace during a formal event.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick swish. Rubellos ignores Ira's polite greeting. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick sigh sounding as the girl feels neglected again. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick hum sounding as a heavy silence fills the room. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick clack sounding as training resumes with his mentor. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick whoosh sounding as Rubellos leaps high into action. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick flash sounding as a magical circle activates instantly. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick boom sounding as a massive explosion of energy occurs. Debris and smoke fill the training area as the mentor watches the boy's truly immense power. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick chuckle sounding as the Duke looks very pleased. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick beam sounding as Rubellos' face lights up triumphantly. The master and student stand together as the day ends, reflecting on their intense training session. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick hum sounding as Rubelos prepares one final strike.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick blast sounding as light erupts from the ground. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick gasp sounding as a man witnesses the power. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick whistle sounding as the wind sweeps the garden.
The courtyard tiles are shattered, leaving a deep crater as proof of the prince's incredible strength. The blue-haired duke observes his student's progress with a calm and approving expression of intrigue. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick pot sounding as the mentor praises his growth.
The duke offers the boy any reward he desires for his hard work and absolute dedication. Rubelos imagines Ira, his true motivation for gaining the power necessary to protect her from others.
He decides to keep his wish a secret for now, intending to fulfill it himself later.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick nod sounding as Rubelos promises to reveal it.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick step sounding as he prepares for what's next.
Rubelos stands firm before Tail, the stage finally set for the uncle's betrayal to be addressed.
Tail expresses surprise that the blonde-haired prince was the one to request a meeting.
The prince stares with intense purple eyes and asks Tail if they can make a deal.
Tail stands with his arms crossed and smugly repeats the blonde man's offer of a deal. Rubelos stands tall in the sunlit courtyard and challenges his uncle to an official duel. The prince declares that if he loses the duel, he will yield the throne to Tail.
Tail asks what happens if he wins, while Rubelos begins to state his own terms.
A bubble reveals the prince's condition that his uncle must finally leave the imperial palace.
Tail smirks with dark intent and tells the boy that he likes the new proposal.
The two men stand far apart on the training grounds, ready to begin their duel. Tail draws his blade with a cold smile and tells his nephew to begin.
Rubelos looks forward with a determined gaze and agrees that it is time to start.
A powerful whirlwind of energy erupts across the courtyard as the intense combat finally begins. A swift sword strike narrowly misses the prince, tearing a hole in his gray coat sleeve.
Rubelos realizes that his brown-haired uncle is attacking with his full strength from the start.
Tail smirks while gathers dark purple magical energy in the palm of his right hand.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick hum sounding as Tail forms a magical orb.
Sharp crystal magic erupts from the courtyard floor as the uncle continues his relentless assault.
The prince stands his ground as magical energy and blade strikes fill the entire training area. A massive explosion of purple energy occurs as the two powerful combatants clash with one another.
The tiles of the palace courtyard are shattered by the truly immense power of the duel.
Rubelos reflects on the situation, thinking about how events have finally led to this inevitable confrontation.
Tail laughs manically and shouts, "Ha ha!" Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick chuckle sounding. The uncle shouts for the prince to keep going as he continues his lethal attacks.
Rubelos decides that he never needed to torment himself with guilt over his uncle's betrayal.
A golden dome of magical protection forms around the blonde prince to block the next strike.
Tail lunges forward with his sword, striking uselessly against the prince's powerful golden magical shield.
The duel continues with incredible speed as both men trade fierce physical and magical blows. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick pant sounding as Tail catches his bust. Rubelos stands perfectly still and coldly asks his uncle if that is all he has. Tail looks back with wide eyes, stunned by the realization of the boy's superior strength.
The brown-haired man grits his teeth in a pure rage and mutters the word, "You."
Tail screams that he is an arrogant brat and lunges forward for one final desperate strike.
Rubelos accepts the situation with a calm gaze and decides that the outcome is fine.
A final declaration appears as the prince decides it is time to end the duel. Rubelos reaches his hand out to activate a spell that will finish the fight instantly. A complex magical circle glows brightly on the ground beneath the feet of the combatants. Tail gathers a final orb of magic, unaware of the powerful trap already set beneath him. A massive magical seal illuminates the entire area as the prince's ultimate spell is triggered. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick scream sounding as Tail is bound by magic. The scene shifts to the quiet, empty palace hall following the conclusion of the duel. Tail is forced onto his knees, his body completely restrained by heavy, glowing magical chains. Tail smirks and says, "Ha, as I thought. Blood will tell."
Rubelos' eyes glow red as he calls him a monster and orders him to leave.
Tail remains bound on the ground and mockingly agrees to follow the terms of the deal.
The scene shifts to the imperial throne room as the court gathers for an announcement.
The older blonde emperor asks Tail if he is truly serious about leaving the palace. Tail bows and lies, saying he wants to learn more about the world outside the palace.
Rubelos watches from the distance and tells his uncle to just shut up and go.
The prince remembers the purple-haired girl's bright smile and reflects on his secret motivation.
The emperor grants his brother official permission to depart from the imperial palace at once.
Dark panels reveal that Tail will now be known as Kilton, retaining his imperial bloodline status. The palace halls echo the news that he will receive a title and funds for his rank. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick stroll sounding as Tail walks away from the prince. Rubelos watches his uncle depart, feeling a sense of finality as their long conflict finally ends. Rubelos catches his breath at the training grounds, believing Tail's exit finishes his heavy burdens. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick dash sounding as Ira arrives in a beautiful gown. The blonde prince turns in surprise, his eyes widening as he realizes Era is calling him. Her attention is taken by a sudden quick fidget sounding as Ira shyly presents a pink letter. Her attention is taken by a sudden quick heartbeat sounding as Rubellos blushes at her proximity.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick squeeze sounding as Ira asks him to be her partner.
The young girl holds the invitation firmly, waiting with bated breath for his long-awaited answer.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick thud sounding as Rubellos looks away in visible pain.
The prince begins to walk away, internally declaring that he cannot provide an answer just yet.
He struggles with his emotions, knowing he must keep his distance until the palace is safe.
Ira looks on with a hopeful yet confused expression, wondering why he is acting so strange.
Rubellos keeps his back turned, thinking that everything will change once Tail has finally departed.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick clench sounding as Rubellos grits his teeth in frustration. Her attention is taken by a sudden quick snap sounding as he tells her not to talk.
He grips the letter tightly and silently pleads for her to endure this distance a bit longer.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick step sounding as Ira watches him walk away.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick flare sounding as Ira realizes he kept her invitation.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick hop sounding as the girl cheers in absolute delight.
A decorative pattern featuring cute puppies and flowers marks a peaceful transition in the royal story.
A credits page appears with information regarding the original comic and where to find more updates.
Time passes at the palace as a grand carriage prepared for travel waits on the stone path.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick rattle sounding as Tail watches the palace fade away.
An older and more mature Rubellos stands alone, his gaze hardened by the passing of many years.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick swish sounding as the prince adjusts his formal attire.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick grip sounding as he touches the gem on his collar.
Rubellos looks out at the garden, deciding that he can finally confess his true feelings to Ira. He plans to reveal the truth to her during the grand event of her official debutante ball.
Writing a letter, Rubellos hopes his unrequited feelings will finally be accepted by the blue-haired girl.
The scene shifts to a hazy view of the palace on the day of the important ball.
Noble guests gather on the grand staircase, dressed in their finest attire for the evening's festivities.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick chatter sounding as more carriages arrive at the venue.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick slide sounding as Ira steps out in her gown.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick flutter sounding as she blushes with excitement and nerves.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick stroke sounding as Rubellos waits patiently by a window. Her attention is taken by a sudden quick smile sounding as the prince thinks of his friend. Her attention is taken by a sudden quick twitch sounding as Rubellos senses a sudden chilling presence.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick spin sounding as he turns to investigate the courtyard.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick click sounding as he spots assassins in the bushes.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick shout sounding as a masked man lunges with steel.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick clang sounding as Rubellos blocks a lethal sword strike. Her attention is taken by a sudden quick rustle sounding as more masked enemies surround the prince. Her attention is taken by a sudden quick snap sounding as an assassin prepares a follow-up attack.
Rubellos wonders what this strange feeling is as his purple eyes begin to glow a deep red.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick smirk sounding as he wonders if Tail sent them.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick crack sounding as Rubellos dodges a powerful magical strike.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick squeeze sounding as he vows to end this fate.
A golden clock ticks away, its ornate hands marking the inevitable passage of time.
Elegant couples dance across the ballroom floor as the music notes of a melody swirl.
The blue-haired girl stands alone, her heart heavy as she searches for a specific presence.
Gossipers mock the girl's confidence, wondering how she dared to approach the emperor for a dance.
Noble ladies whisper cruel remarks, labeling the girl a stalker who refuses to accept being ignored.
Era looks down in sorrow, finally realizing that the prince and the court share the same opinion.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick clang sounding as a sharp blade hits the ground.
Rubellos stands victoriously over a fallen assassin, his expression hardened by the violence of the encounter.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick pant sounding as the blonde prince catches his breath.
The prince looks over the pile of defeated enemies and declares that the fight is finally over.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick pulse sounding as the prince's eye turns deep red.
Rubellos gazes out the window at the distant palace while music from the ball drifts outside.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick dash sounding as he realizes he kept her waiting.
Looking in the mirror, the blood-splattered prince realizes he must hurry to find his special friend.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick stop sounding as the prince hesitates in the hallway. The prince stares into the quiet library, gripped by a sudden realization that he cannot go on.
Rubellos hears his name called and turns toward the mirror, wondering if the blue-haired girl found him.
Bodies are tossed aside with immense force as the prince finishes dealing with the final lingering threats.
A moment of quiet tension follows the battle as Rubellos stands alone in the dimly lit room.
Rubellos frantically tries to wipe the blood from his face, terrified that he looks like a monster.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick gasp sounding as Ira discovers the prince in the room.
The girl declares she is exhausted and vows to disappear from his sight to grant his wish.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick gulp sounding as Rebellos hopes no one saw the fight.
A mental declaration appears as the young woman decides to end her long, painful, one-sided love.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick thump sounding as he vows never to show himself.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick sob sounding as Ira runs away while crying out.
The prince watches her depart, his heart breaking as he remains frozen by his own secret burdens.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick shout sounding as he calls out to the fleeing girl.
Standing amidst the carnage, the prince realizes that his struggle was far from being truly over.
A dark panel reveals his hidden resolve to become emperor and seize control of his own fate. He envisioned a future where he could protect her from all harm once he achieved absolute power.
The blonde prince swore that he would only confess his true feelings once everything was finally perfect.
Her attention is taken by a sudden quick groan sounding as the girl's hands grip her dress. Her attention is taken by a sudden quick drip sounding as Ira cries for the blonde emperor.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick rustle sounding as the two lovers share a hug.
The two remain in a deep embrace, finding comfort in each other after years of painful distance.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick squeeze sounding as he finally allows himself to hold her.
A blue-haired man with a mustache stares at the intimate scene with a look of pure confusion.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick yank sounding as the father pulls his daughter away.
The blue-haired man demands to know why the prince dares to offer excuses after causing such pain. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick hum sounding as the man gathers powerful blue magic.
Rebellos is struck by a blast of magical energy, crying out in shock as he is thrown.
The two men discuss past lessons, debating the true meaning of strength and remaining calm under pressure.
Rebellos creates a shield, vowing to defend Era, but his master shouts that his advice was misinterpreted.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick shatter sounding as the palace window is blown outward.
The older blue-haired man looks on with a stern face as Ira watches the confrontation in fear. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick step sounding as the emperor moves back toward them.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick thud sounding as the two men have a standoff.
Shattered glass and furniture litter the floor, evidence of the immense magical power released during the argument. The blue-haired man shouts in anger, asking why the prince never revealed his uncle's true treachery.
Narrative text explains that the enemy has been meticulously plotting his scheme for a very long time.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick squeeze sounding as Rebellos vows to gain strength.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick twitch sounding as the man reacts to the news. The blue-haired man asks if the prince made such a dangerous decision entirely on his own.
Rebellos explains he felt most suited for revenge since his father and uncle were old friends.
A heavy, expectant silence hangs between the two men as they stand before a palace window. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick glance sounding as Ira looks at the blonde prince.
The blonde prince maintains a steady, resolute gaze as he faces his mentor's heavy questioning. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick sigh sounding as the man acknowledges the prince's growth.
The Duke warns him not to shoulder burdens alone, while Rebellos admits he has someone to protect.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick swish sounding as Rebellos smiles warmly at the girl. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick stare sounding as Ira tilts her head in confusion.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick laugh sounding as the Duke watches the two friends.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick shout sounding as a foot enters the messy room.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick chuckle sounding as the Duchess discovers the destroyed chamber.
Shards of glass and a fallen flower pot lie scattered across the ornate carpet of the room.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick drip sounding as the Duke sweats under her gaze. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick bow sounding as Rebellos offers his deepest apologies. Rebellos claims he got carried away practicing martial arts and accidentally caused the destruction of the house. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick blink sounding as the Duchess looks on in surprise. The prince offers to compensate for the damage by tracking down rare items from overseas for her.
The Duchess tells the Emperor to stand tall and never lower his head in such a manner.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick swish sounding as Rebellos rises to face the woman. A soft smile touches the prince's face as he looks at the woman who cared for him. The blue-haired girl stands silently in her gown as she watches the emotional exchange from afar.
Rebellos bows once more, apologizing for causing her precious daughter pain for such a long time.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick touch sounding as the Duchess reaches for his face. The woman looks at him with a motherly expression, her eyes filled with warmth and understanding. Rebellos gazes back at her with wide eyes, moved by her gentle and forgiving physical gesture. The prince remains silent, his expression softening as he accepts the Duchess's kind and comforting words. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick thump, sounding as Ira blushes at the scene. Ira grips her dress tightly, overwhelmed by the emotional resolution unfolding right in front of her. The Duchess leads her shocked husband away, declaring that they will leave the two youngsters alone. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick drag sounding as the Duke is pulled away. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick click sounding as the door closes behind the couple. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick swish sounding as Ira reaches out to him. Rebellos asks if she is all right, and she confirms it as they share a murmur. The Emperor and Empress accept an apology, much to the visible surprise of the blue-haired girl. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick drag sounding as the Empress removes the Emperor.
Era and Rubellos share a joyful laugh, finally free from the heavy tension of their secrets.
Sunlight streams through a broken window as the narrative reflects on overcoming a massive metaphorical mountain.
The golden light of evening fills a quiet palace corridor lined with grand pillars and lamps.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick hush sounding as four people dine in silence.
The blonde man notes that Rubelos was keeping another serious secret from his family and friends.
He expresses deep shock that the young prince would hide such a grave matter for long.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick sigh sounding as the blonde empress closes her eyes. Both Rubellos and Ira bow their heads, offering their sincere apologies to the seated royal couple.
Rubellos admits he lacked proof and felt he was too young to act on his suspicions.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick bang sounding as he vows to handle Tail himself.
The emperor and empress stare at him with blank expressions, confused by his sudden emotional outburst. The emperor and empress look perplexed, questioning why the conversation shifted to Uncle Tail.
Rubellos and Era exchange a tense, awkward glance as the sudden questioning catches them off guard.
The blonde empress leans in closer, explaining that their curiosity lies in a different matter.
A mischievous smile plays on her lips as she prepares to reveal her true suspicions.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick gasp sounding as Ira reacts to the empress.
The empress gleefully claims she knows they're dating, while Rubellos tries to protest her playful prying.
The emperor nods in silent agreement, seemingly content with his wife's humorous interrogation of the youth.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick yelp sounding as Rubelos reacts with pure shock.
Ira is mortified by the mention of marriage, while Rubellos frantically attempts to correct the misunderstanding.
Rubellos asks if they have more questions about Tail, but the emperor affirms his absolute trust.
The blonde prince maintains a serious expression, still focused on the gravity of the looming threat.
The emperor gazes at his son with a warm, proud smile, acknowledging his growth and maturity. A close-up reveals his deep purple eyes, reflecting a mixture of wisdom and hidden tactical thought. Raising his cup, the emperor pledges his trust before shifting his focus back to the girl.
Rubellos watches his father with a silent, lingering concern as the dinner conversation takes another turn.
The emperor addresses the blue-haired girl directly, prompting a nervous and startled response from Era.
With a playful glint in his eye, the emperor asks when they might expect any grandchildren.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick shout sounding as Rubellos scolds his teasing father. The emperor bursts into hearty laughter, admitting that he finds teasing the younger generation highly entertaining. The empress sighs gently, asking her husband to finally stop bothering the two very embarrassed lovers. Flickering candles illuminate the quiet dining hall as the evening's heavy tension finally begins to melt.
Narrative text reflects on how the group successfully navigated the emotional hurdles of the secret-filled evening.
The story notes they safely crossed a metaphorical mountain, moving toward a much more peaceful future.